fuck, I work Christmas Day most years, Easter. I didn't know what public holidays were. I was ashamed of that. Like, people for years would ask me, what's your hobbies? Motherfucker, I don't have time for a hobby. Hobbies are for people that have got spare fucking time. I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to rule the world. I'm trying to get retired by 40. There is no hobbies. Right. Now I got hobbies. You get what I'm saying? Now I've got spare time. But there is a price to be paid for success.
I'm Mike Roberts, and this is the Converse Cowboy.
This episode is brought to you by Kerry Kelly Bits and Spurs.
Clinton Anderson, glad to have you on the show. I was thinking back on like when I sent the invite to you. I sent the invite to Dale Brisby. I sent an invite to Melanie Smith with Solo Select Horses, and just, I guess, subconsciously, three marketing geniuses is who I sent those invites to. And I guess it would have been, you can call it serendipity, because the next day I'm riding with Jesse Lennox and he's like, hey, I'm going to dinner tonight with Clinton Anderson. Do you want to go? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of crazy. Just sent this invite yesterday on Instagram, which, by the way, you haven't responded to my invite on Instagram.
I don't control any of my social media. If I controlled my own social media, I would have been fired and cancelled 20 years ago. So my rider, she controls all. I don't even have to pay passwords. Like, I do not have any personal social media, Facebook. Everything's through the business.
Yeah.
And I do that for a reason, because I'd be fucking drunk at 1 o'clock in the morning. Some bitch would start mouthing off, and I'd get back on there and mouth back off at her, and my whole career would have been ended 20 years ago. So it's kind of like, I knew my weakness, so I just gave somebody else the keys to the safe. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Smart man,
now, I'll send her shit to post all the time. And now that I'm retired, she'll let a lot more go through now. But she'll knock back. She used to knock back 90% of it. You know what I mean? But I let somebody else hold the keys to the safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I wish we could have had microphones and a recorder going that night at dinner.
It was a good conversation.
Great conversation, and invalidated me wanting to have you on the show and sending that invite. You dropped so many nuggets, and hopefully we'll get into some of that.
Sure.
Today. We'll talk business. You had a very successful business, still do, successful trainer, clinician. With any level of success, though, comes some failures, you know, and then on social media, most folks want to post their highlight reel. Yeah. On this show, I really like to get into the low light reel and see what it is that developed. You know, what is it that we learned along the way? So, in a nutshell, business, marketing, horsemanship, I'd love to cover the gambit.
We can do it all
today, if you're good with that.
How are you?
It's always fun for me to do these interviews. I'm at a point now where I only sit down with folks that I truly want to sit down with, and because I'm going to spend some time researching and really try to understand that individual to maximize the time I have here. And so, for folks that may not know your story, from Australia, got into horses early in life, developed a passion and worked your ass off, really for no money. Gordon McKinley. Yeah. And saw something in you. Yeah. That I guess you either have or you don't have. And so I'll let you take it from there. And from that time, how did we get to the United States of America?
We got a while there. My grandparents got me and my sister into horses as kids. My grandmother was very passionate about horses. She just had a couple of old busted ass thoroughbred mares off the track, because you get them kind of free in Australia, so we were pretty poor, and that's what she got. She wanted a horse. She got one as an adult, and she got me and my sister into the horses as a passion, but we didn't know what we were doing, Mike. We were just a bunch of little rednecks running around and didn't know anything, but my grandmother and I had a craving for knowledge, but we didn't know anything. So we would read books, we would get anything we could to learn about horsemanship. And back in Australia, the only books you could really find on horsemanship was like English hunter eventing, dressage books, stuff like that. There really wasn't a lot on the whole Western world, or quote unquote natural horsemanship or colt starting. You know, Ray Hunt had been coming over to the States since the late 70s, but we didn't know any people that went to that or did any of that. And so when I was 13, I stumbled across a game in Australia called polo cross. And it's like polo over here, but you have a racket. It's like lacrosse on foot here, but you're on horse. Picture the same game, more or less, but on horseback. Pretty rough, aggressive. You know, the joke in Australia is polo cross is what we call poor man's polo, because in polo you have 4 horses and you change horses every chukker, every set. In Australia, we're so fucking poor. We have 1 horse and we just ride the shit out of it 4 times. You know what I mean? So we don't get to change horses. So it's what they call poor man's polo. So I did that for several years, and horsemanship was lacking pretty good, and I always knew it lacked. So I would ask anybody I knew that knew more than me, which is pretty much anybody, about how do you get them to stop better? How do you get them to turn better? I just had a real passion for learning to be a better horseman, mainly through my own frustration of sucking, you know what I mean, and failing and feeling like I'm stupid and I can't get my horse to do what I wanted to do. So I was never shy as a kid asking people for questions and knowledge. And when I was 13, I got invited, I was down in Queensland State Championships. It was in a place called Wandoan at that time, would have been like 1988. And some guy ran into my mother and said, your son's got a lot of talent on a horse as far as riding, but his horsemanship's so shitty and his horses are so shitty. I recommend this guy, Gordon McKinley. He teaches horsemanship clinics. Take him to a clinic and teach him some skills to get better. So we just took him up on it. We didn't know who Gordon McKinley was. My grandparents and mother drove me 22 hours to go to this clinic in Longreach, Queensland, which is in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, it's Western Queensland, really in the outback. And we drove 22 hours to get to it, and that pretty much changed my whole life. Like, everything opened up for me. When I saw Gordon McKinley walk with horses and train horses and teach, I must ask this guy 15,000 questions in those 2 days. And to me, it's like a light came on. It's not magical. There's nothing magic about this. I always felt very confused as a kid, because any books I could get my hands on always made horsemanship seem somewhat confusing, kind of magical, you know, feel for the whole, it's like the whole fucking, you know, 2 of the worst books I ever read as a kid. This will piss a lot of people off in Nevada, but fuck it, I'll say it. 2 of the books that I fucking hated the most, that were the shittiest books in my opinion, was True Unity by Tom Dorrance and The Thinking, I think it was called The Thinking Horseman by Ray Hunt. Like, the True Unity was Tom Dorrance's book. You have to feel for the horse of the horse to get the horse. What the fuck is that? Seriously. It's this magical unicorn bullshit that just tell me what to do.
Right.
Pull the left rein, put your foot here. It'll cause the horse to do that. If it doesn't do that, do this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? It always, horsemanship seemed very elusive and like talked in riddles. That's probably a better way. There's always like it talked in fucking riddles. And I just couldn't learn like that. When I went to that horsemanship clinic at Gordon McKinley's, he didn't talk in riddles. He talked, okay, this is how you get a horse to respect you. This is how you get it to back up. This is how you get it to stop better. This is, you know, so a light came on. And I loved it. I mean, I just ate it up. It was the first time in my life that I really felt like, okay, there is a clear path to becoming a better horseman. It's not just you're either born with it, because I was thinking I was just one of those unlucky ones that I wasn't born with any talent. And I really wasn't, but I felt the only way you could get good is to be born with it. And he must have seen something in me. I drove the poor bastard fucking nuts with so many questions. And he walked up to my mother at the end of the clinic and he said, if Clinton wants to come down to my place on school holidays, because in Australia we have year-round school. So you have 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off. I think it might be 8 weeks, 8 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And you get 6 weeks over Christmas as our summer, so to speak. So I would go down to him. He said, send him down to me on school holidays. So I took a Greyhound bus. You know, it's funny looking at, you know, parents would never do that shit now. I was on a bus for 22 hours or whatever, and on a Greyhound bus by myself at 13 years old, going down to his place. And I did that for the next 2 years. Every school holidays, I would go down there, learn from him, work for free, eat it all up. I'd stay in his house. And then I'd go home and practice and just go back and forth. And it was like a really good time for me. And then basically, cut a long story short, at 15 years old, I had to make a choice. Did I want to stay in school anymore, or did I want to do this for a living? And I just loved it, and I wanted to be a horse trainer. I didn't want to be a clinician. I wanted to be a horse trainer.
Right.
That was what I loved to do. So at 15, I told my parents I want to leave school. I want to go to Gordon McKinley and start a full-time apprenticeship, you know, starting colts, problem horses, you know. Gordon's real niche was he handled a lot of bad problem horses, and he was really good at taming wild horses, you know. So that was kind of his niche. And so they said, sure, no problem. My parents actually supported me leaving school. Everybody else was against it, but I think they knew I was passionate about it. I was relentless. I wasn't going to give up. And I was going to live with 65-year-old people. And it wasn't like I was going to go party. I was going to go work like a man. Like, I had to grow up very quickly. I went from a kid in high school to working 14-hour days, 7 days a week beside a 65-year-old man. Does that make sense? It made me grow up very, very quickly. And stayed there for a couple of years. I worked for free, but it really wasn't free, Mike. He paid me millions in knowledge.
Yep.
You know, kids don't get that. They think I was, call it smart enough or intuitive enough, whatever you want to say, but I didn't want money. I wanted knowledge. And he didn't have money, so we were a good team. Does that make sense? He didn't have money to pay me. He's fucking broke and didn't have any money to pay me. I didn't need money, but I was a warm body. I was basically, you know, his arms and legs for 2 years, because I kind of got lucky when I met him. He had just got out of hospital. He had a really bad wreck on a horse where he broke his pelvis real bad. And so his body was pretty banged up. So, you know, fate had it that I showed up on his ranch basically when his body's broke. He's a kid that's kind of useless with a horse, but he's physically in good shape. So I became his arms and legs. So he'd sit on the fence, tell me what to do, you know, tell me basically how to train a horse. And I was his body and he had the mind, you know. So I stayed there for a couple of years and started tons of colts and tons of problem horses. And I had a great time. Looking back on it, it was probably the best time of my life. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't need money. I was staying in a little fifth-wheel caravan out the back. It didn't even have heat in it. And I was the happiest I ever been, is that all I had to do every day is wake up and learn.
Right.
And go to bed and then repeat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was lucky enough at that age to not think this was a bad deal. I thought it was awesome. You know what I mean? In fact, I felt lucky that he wasn't even charging me. Like, this is how naive I was. So when I went there, he had another guy working there that he was paying.
Naive, or I would say hungry.
Hungry, naive, I was just passionate about it. Like, so he had this other guy that was working there. And Gordon, anybody knows Gordon, I love him to death, but he had a bit of a temper on him. Like, he could fucking rip strips off you. If you pissed him off or did something stupid, he would tear into you. And some guy he had working there, he's probably a 21-year-old guy at the time, and this guy did something really stupid with a horse, and Gordon ripped his arsehole for it. And when Gordon cussed him out, and when Gordon walked away, this guy started bitching and swearing, grumbling about getting an ass whipping. And something caused me to say this. I don't know what. I said, this is probably when I was about 14. I said, are you getting paid to be here? And he looked at me like, well, fuck yeah, I'm getting paid to be here. Why would I be here if I'm not being paid? And I never said it, but I thought to myself, you must be the luckiest son of a bitch in the world that you get to be here and learn this shit and get paid. Fuck, I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
And I thought I was stealing from him. Even when I went there at 15, he gave me food to eat and a roof. I thought I was stealing from him. I still thought I was on the better end of the deal. And I was, as far as I was concerned.
Right.
But a lot of kids now, they don't see it that way. They don't see that knowledge is money. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is experience. So I did that for 2 years, gained a lot of experience, ended on really good terms, moved to another guy, Ian Francis, and he taught me more of how to get a horse really soft and supple and broke. Like, Ian's won the Cutting Futurity 3 times in Australia, won the Reigning Futurity 5 times. He was kind of our all-round great horseman. And actually, as far as I'm concerned, he's probably the best horseman I've ever seen as far as all different disciplines and training a cutter, training a reiner, etc. Worked for him for about a year and really enjoyed that. And then went out my own, starting problem colts and problem horses and all that kind of stuff. And then I really wanted to train reining horses. That's where my desire and passion was. And
is that big in Australia, reining?
Yes. When I say big, it's big for our size of our country. Like, we have 30 million people that live in Australia. So it's not like it is here, because you've got 330 million here. So on a scale, it's much, much smaller. No, it's not the dominant sport over there. Camp drafting would be the dominant sport. It's our version of cow horse, camp drafting. You know, that would be the dominant horse sport in Australia. So I went to the 97 Futurity. I placed third on a mare there that I owned. And then after that, I just knew America was where I wanted to be. If you were going to be number one over here, you were going to make any money, this is where you needed to be.
Right.
And so I had a $400 in my pocket, pair of boots and a bridle, and I just came to America, and that's where it kind of started from that part.
Right.
It was a long-winded story, but you asked how I got to
No.
America. That was kind of it.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Yeah, you summed up however long that was, 10 plus years in 5-10 minutes.
I don't know
so.
if I skipped too much for you, but there was a lot of lessons learned in there, put it
Well,
that
no,
way.
it makes a lot of sense too, though. Like, so I got into horses later in life. Wasn't that long ago. I was YouTubing how do I saddle a fucking horse.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so I stumbled across this play gun gelding I bought from the Sixes. Went down the play gun rabbit trail, found Dick Pieper, that book behind you, The Language of Horsemanship. He did what you said, like broke it down very simple to where I could understand. I feel like a lot of people try to complicate something
Very
that
much so.
may not be that complicated.
It's almost like they talked in riddles.
Yeah.
And I don't learn like that. I got to have step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, that's how my brain learns. And what I found, even when I learnt from Gordon and Ian, they were good teachers, okay? They weren't great teachers, but they were good teachers. So what would happen is, the way my brain works is they would tell me something with a horse, and then I would say, okay, Gordon, let me see if I get this straight. Step 1, you want me to do this. And then step 2, do this. And then step 3. And he'd say, yes, but you got step 2 wrong, do this. And then I'd repeat it again. And that's how I had to learn in my head, is I needed structure. And so when, Gordon, how the clinics and my method came apart is I would go with Gordon and Ian to help them with horsemanship clinics. So I'd be their helper. So if some lady's having trouble, instead of stopping the whole class, he'd send me over there to help her with the horse. And people started walking up to me saying, okay, Clinton, well, I love the weekend. What do I do when I get home? What are the order? You've shown me 10 different exercises. Which one do I start with every day and which one do I finish with? And I'm like, well, shit, I don't know. So I had to go back to Gordon and say, hey, do we have some fucking pamphlet or some shit we can give people that has like the exercises written down? He said, no, it's all just in my head. And I said, well, can't we just make one up? So that's kind of how the whole teaching thing got started. As I said, okay, we've shown them 10 things. Here's the 10. And we didn't even have these exercise name, Mike. Like, you know what I mean? He'd say, Clinton, go get that colt and do the exercise where you run its ass around its 4 quarters and you back it up and you make it turn left and right. And I'm like, hey, Gordon, is there any chance we could just fucking name this?
Yeah.
Like, instead of describing the whole thing, can we just name it something? And he said, sure, what do you want to name it? I said, how about we just call it lunging for respect? Because that's what we're trying to do, get the animal to respect us, and we're lunging it at the same time. So he said, great, call it lunging for respect. So as silly as it sounds, that's how all the exercises got named. It's just something like that. So once we named everything, then I said to Gordon, I said, okay, we just showed these people 10 things. What's the order they're supposed to do it? Is it they start at exercise 1 and work their way down to 10? And so it gave structure. In the past, how you got really good is a young kid sat on a fence, Mike, and just watched somebody as best they could and then asked a few questions and tried to figure it out. That's how horsemanship was spread from generation to generation. Some kid had a passion for it and wanted to sit there and learn. But that's not necessarily the best way to learn. How about we get some structure to it? Step 1, step 2, step 3. I'm not saying that you can't deviate from the structure, but when you're learning, structure helps you figure out what to do.
Right.
Does that make sense? What I did is I'm very adamant about this. My method of training horses, I did not invent any of it. Gordon McKinley and Ian Francis, it's their method, it's their training. What I did is, I think I'll take credit for, is I combined 2 legends in Australia, 2 great horsemen. I combined both their horsemanship programs together and took the best of both of them. And then what I did over 20 more years is I structured it. I named it, I numbered it, I put it into levels, I put it into kits. I made it idiot-proof for the masses.
Right.
And it's not, and I don't say idiot-proof as derogatory to my customer. I was an idiot. I felt like an idiot trying to learn this. So initially, I didn't do it because I wanted to get rich. I did it because if I don't create some structure for me, it was never going to work.
Right.
Does that
No,
make
it makes
sense?
100%. What you did is, and I want to get into this here in just a little bit. We're going to go back to some horsemanship stuff, but you packaged information, and that, like, you did a very good job of selling information and capitalizing on marketing skills, which I want to know how you learned what you were able to implement for the 20 plus years with Downunder Horsemanship. But what fascinated me, I guess, about just horsemanship in general is the psychology of a horse. And being able to manipulate this horse's brain, tap into its brain, which I do a very poor job of, but it fascinates me that I can watch people like you, and I go watch these cuttings and these professional horse trainers. It's like Rain Man type shit. Like, how do you get into that the brain of a horse, what is it that humans, in your opinion, can learn from horses?
Well, horses are very humbling for starters. You know, every time, as I always say as a horseman, every time you think you got it figured out, there's nothing like a horse to kick your ass. You know what I mean? You start feeling confident, like, man, I'm really getting the hang of this, and then you get a new problem horse in that makes you have trouble with, and it makes you scratch your head. So horses are very humbling, but to me, I used to think the same thing you just said, is that how do you get these creatures to do what you want them to do? Is it magical? I'd actually say now it's not magical at all. It's very scientific. They are a prey animal, we are a predator. So instinctively, we are not designed to get along. We are like oil and water mixing. We want to hunt things and eat them and we have, predators have teeth and claws. Mm-hmm. They're a prey animal and they have hooves and they want to run like a motherfucker to get away from us. So instinctively, we are not meant to blend. Can we blend? Absolutely. But without us understanding each other, we do not mix well at all. So once humans understand the psychology of a horse and what makes them do good behavior and what makes them do bad behavior, it's simple to understand. It may be difficult to put into practice, and it is at times when you're learning new skills, it's difficult to do, but it doesn't have to be difficult to understand. They're basically a prey animal, and there's only 3 ways you can control a horse, and this goes for cutting, reining, any sport you can imagine. You control a horse's mind by doing these 3 things, and there's only these 3, okay? Create movement, which is get the animal to move, whether it's forwards, backwards, left and right, forwards, backwards, left. So creating movement. Redirecting movement, which is the change of direction, stop, turn, etc. And the third way you control a horse's mind is by inhibiting movement. That would be tying the horse up to a tree, or teaching him to lay down, teaching him to be hobbled. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Everybody's training system in the world is just a combination of those 3 buttons: create movement, redirect movement, and inhibit movement. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. Now, you can do those 3 things 10,000 different ways. Right. And reality is there's no wrong way. I always tell people, Mike, I don't say I'm the best horseman in the world, not even close. I don't even say I'm right. I don't even say my way is the best way. This is just the way I do it. Right. If it works for you, friggin' awesome. If it doesn't work for you, I don't give a shit. Mm-hmm. People wanting to get into these warfares of who's right. There's really nobody's right. It's just what works for you. Yeah. But every training system, I don't care what you name, is really just a combination of move his feet, redirect his feet, and then at some point inhibit his feet, which is tying him up, hobbling him, teach him to lay down, some sort of restrictive movement. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it's really not magical. It used to come across to me as a kid as magical because here's my experience in horsemanship. The more talented a horse trainer is, the shittier teacher they are, as a general rule.
Like they can't explain
They can't explain it. And it's not because they don't want to be explained. It's not because they don't want to help you. It's not because they're being rude. They just don't know. Truly, I don't care if it's horses playing the clarinet, bike riding, NASCAR. I don't give a shit what you do. Truly naturally gifted people typically struggle when you ask them how they got so good. They can't really tell you. They'll say, well, I just started playing and I practiced a little bit and one thing led to another. Like as kids, we all remember somebody in high school that was just a natural athlete. He'd just step up to the baseball plate and he'd just knock it out of the park. And then there's the rest of us like me that are swinging and missing all the time. We're just not naturally gifted at that. Right. And we look at the guy that's gifted and we're like, does he practice every day? And the answer is fucking no. He usually doesn't. He's just that naturally gifted. Typically, naturally gifted people can't explain what they're doing very well. Another trait that I've noticed about naturally gifted people, typically, in all honesty, they're not the hardest worker because it came so easy for them. Mm-hmm. Most people that really got good at something had to really practice. And I'm not saying naturally gifted people don't practice, but they typically don't practice as much as people that are not naturally gifted. Right. Because the people who are not naturally gifted don't have a choice. We can't cheat the system. We have to get out there every day and swing that bat 100 times, 300 times. You get what I'm trying to say? Now, when you get the naturally gifted athlete or person that has a work ethic and practices, oh my God, you can't beat him then. He's unbeatable. Yeah. Does that make sense? He's unbeatable at that point.
Thinking about the guys from my hometown that were just fat ass athletes either piss it away on drugs.
Yes.
Just didn't give a shit.
They
almost
typically
took
are
it for
lazy.
granted.
Let me just be a little fucking blunt. Typically, they're lazy, Mike. Not all of them. I did not use the word all.
Right.
But most naturally gifted people are pretty lazy because they didn't have to sacrifice to get it. Like I read a book. This guy interviewed several hundred Olympic athletes. And he interviewed them and he asked them, what was your secret? Were you naturally talented at what you do? How did you... He interviewed more Olympic gold medalists than anybody in the world. And he asked them, there's all the same set of questions. And one of the main questions he wanted to know is, did you class yourself as naturally gifted at doing this? Or did you have natural talent? Virtually all of them said, no, I was not naturally talented. He said, well, how did you get an Olympic gold medal? They just said, I just worked harder than everybody else. I practiced more than everybody else. I sacrificed more than everybody else. They just wanted it more than the other guy. I thought it was very odd, and he mentioned this in the book. He was expecting them to say I had natural talent.
Yeah.
I was gifted. None of them said that. They said the complete opposite. And they were gold medalists.
That reminds me of a podcast that you did with Rodney Carrington.
Yes.
Who I think is one of the funniest comedians
funny as
going
fuck.
today. Never would I have guessed the story that he told on your podcast.
Yeah.
Of showing up and getting his teeth kicked in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Steve Harvey putting his arm around him. And
It was probably that's probably my favorite podcast, that one with Rodney Carrington, because it was so humility. But this guy is so successful now, but he sucked so bad when he got started and wouldn't quit.
Right.
You know what I mean? That I actually took a lesson from Rodney, but I took a life lesson from that I never forgot, and I've still done it now. He said when he first did stand-up, if you remember, he said, I do a 10-minute set. 30 seconds was really good, and 9.5 minutes sucked. He said, Clinton, so bad that it's crickets and booing. and he said, I walked off that stage, and he said, I just wanted to keep going. And I said, Rodney, how the fuck do you suck for 9.5 out of 10 minutes and not be just crushed at the end? Not just give up. In fact, his first paycheck, the promoter of the club said, son, you're not good enough for this. Go find another job. And he never quit.
Yeah.
And he said something I never forgot. He said, Clinton, all I focused on was the 30 seconds of laughter. And he said, next time I tried to get 45 seconds of laughter, and then 9 minutes and 15 seconds sucked. Yeah. And next time I went out, I tried to get a minute of laughter. And he said, after a year, I could get 10 minutes of laughter. That's not normal. And I asked him, I said, who fucking taught you that? That's not, as humans, we focus on the negatives of shit, especially when it's overwhelming, isn't it? 9.5 minutes sucks and 30 minutes is good. Yeah. Your brain would automatically go as humans to the 9.5 minutes. He said nobody taught it to him. He said he just got a craving for that 30 seconds. But he said, I just built on it 15 seconds at a time. Well, you know, I'm learning how to cut now, and I suck pretty bad still, okay? But about a year and a half ago, I trained my first mare, and I went in my first cutting, okay? And for a reiner, that's hard, to put your hands down for 2.5 fucking minutes and just trust that the horse is going to do its job. That's like totally foreign to a reiner. But it's control, 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 put your head in, only do what I tell you. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like throwing a kid in the pool who doesn't know how to swim. So I go in there and put my hand down.
What show did you go to?
I went to a show in Ardmore. Just a little well-cut horse show in Ardmore, okay? So I came out with a shitty score. I did get a score, but it was shitty, okay? And I was really upset with myself that, man, goddamn, that sucked. I really fucking sucked. And I'll be honest, Rodney Carrington popped into my head because there was 30 seconds of that run that was pretty cool shit. And then my brain automatically switched and said, okay, what would Rodney do? He wouldn't focus on the 2 minutes that sucked. He'd focus on the 30 seconds that was some good shit. I mean, I went from a horrible mood, Mike, wanting to quit cutting, to like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Next time I'm going to go in there and try to get 45 seconds of good shit. Yeah. You get what? And it changed my whole attitude, is that let's not focus on what sucked. Let's focus on what went well. And let's not try to double it. Let's just try to get another 10 seconds of good. Right. 15 seconds. So I took that podcast to heart, and I've really changed some of my attitude on some things, because sometimes it's easy for me as a perfectionist to want to beat yourself up too much if you don't do a good enough job, or you hold yourself at high standards. And when you suck, it's easy to focus on what you suck. You know what I mean? Rather than, hey, man, this part was really good. Let's build on that.
Right.
I thought that was my favorite podcast, to be honest.
That's awesome, and that is one of the things that is a controllable. It's a mindset, and hearing you talk about that run reminds me of my buddy Jesse Lennox, and he talks about his bounce back statistic. When a run doesn't go good, he spins that and it's like, this is awesome. This is a great opportunity to work on my bounce back statistic because he's got another run coming up. You know, those trainers are showing, I don't know, 8-10 horses per show, and so he's got another one. He's got to clear his mind of that, have a short memory, and go after it again. So, but yeah, I enjoy listening to that.
He was not funny like people thought he was going to be.
Different guy.
He is a different guy. He's, no cowboy hat, sneakers, polo shirt. He's a very deep thinker. You know what I mean? That's a character he plays on stage. Does that make
100%.
sense? That's not him. That's a character.
Yep.
And that's okay. He's there to tell jokes, isn't he?
Yep.
And he's good at his character. But, a lot of people, I think, thought that he was going to come on the podcast and be, quote unquote, the character Rodney Carrington. No, he's a deep man, a lot of thought. He's put a lot of thought into his life and very humble and told us about his mistakes and his successes. And I agree with you, is people learn more from where you screw up in life than your successes, I think.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Speaking of that, do you have a favorite failure? Meaning, like, at the time it happened, it just tore you to pieces, tore your ego apart. But in hindsight, you're like, shit, that had to happen. I had to go through that. Maybe a perceived failure would be the better way to ask that.
Yeah, I probably had 4 or 5 moments like that in life. Typically, the worst time you're going through in your life, my mother always said this to me. She said, Clinton, when one door closes in life, another one will open. You just got to be looking for it. And typically, when I've gone through some of the worst shit in my life, something really good has come out of it. Now, in the moment, you can't see it. In the moment, it's chaos. You're throwing up. It's devastating, and it's hard to be optimistic like that. But now I've done it enough times that I know something good's going to come out of it. So the first one I can really remember is me actually getting fired from a job. When I came to America, I got a job out in California with a rein and horse trainer. And I'm broke. I don't have any money. And I butt heads with the guy's wife, okay? Me and her don't get along. And I always tell this, it's a joke, but it's really true. They don't teach you this in Harvard, but pussy always wins, okay? Don't fucking go against pussy. It's the most powerful nuclear weapon in the world, okay? So as a young apprentice, if you're listening to this, I don't give a shit if the trainer's wife is a complete fucking bitch. Kiss her ass, tell her she's lost weight, tell her she looks beautiful every day. Because if you get on her wrong side, when a man's head hits the pillow at night, Mike, he wants peace. That's all he wants is peace and quiet. And when a woman's got a hard on for you that she wants you fired, as soon as his head hits the pillow, that Clinton Anderson's a piece of shit, that Mike's a piece of shit, you got to get rid of him. He will eventually, it doesn't matter how much he likes you, he will fire your ass because he wants peace with the pussy at home, okay? Yeah. So I made a valuable mistake in life is I went against the pussy and I got fired. Me and the trainer got along awesome, And me and the trainer and the wife, we laugh about it now, 25 years later. We all have fun about it and so forth. But I always say it was the greatest firing I ever got because me getting fired, I was broke, had no money. I threw up for 4 fucking days. I didn't know anybody in America. I had no job prospects, okay, and I'm broke. So it was devastating to me. What it did is it forced me to start Downunder Horsemanship because when I worked for this trainer, I did local lessons in his barn. Well, when I got fired, I had no money. So I just, these people called me the next week and said, hey, can we come for a lesson? I said, well, I don't work there anymore. I got fired. They said, great, just drive to our place and give us a lesson. So that's what I did to eat for a couple of months is just drove around in a little Dodge fucking Neon and did local lessons around the area for a little cash money. And that was actually, honestly, the start of Downunder Horsemanship. It forced me to start this business. I never would have started Downunder Horsemanship if I wouldn't have got fired. Never in a million years would I have started this company if I hadn't got fired. So that firing forced me to go in a different trajectory of life. Now, that 4 days, I threw up, Mike. I didn't eat. I mean, I'm sick to my stomach because I'm scared. I have no money. I don't know what I'm going to do. Now, 25 years later, whatever it is, just recently I went through some bad shit. But I'm old enough now to know that when I was going through some bad shit just recently, some personal stuff, I said to myself, Clinton, it's okay. Something really good's going to come in from this. It feels shitty. It is shitty. I'm not saying it's not shitty. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I had the confidence now. I've done this 4 or 5 times where I've gone through some personal shit that I know when you get through that storm, my mother was right. There is an open door.
Right.
Walk through it.
Right.
Look for the open door and walk through it. And every time I've gone through something bad like that, I've always come out better on the other end.
Right.
I didn't see it, and I still didn't know. And even from this last personal thing I went through, my life has got some tremendously better since it happened. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know how it would get better. I just knew it would get better.
Right.
So I'm not a deeply religious guy by any means, and maybe religious people call that faith. I don't know. You know, I'm not a religious guy, so I don't have a dog in that fight. But I fucking know that something better will come from it.
It reminds me of the Stoic philosophy, amor fati, which means love of fate, right?
Yeah.
So to have the belief, to hold a firm belief that whatever it is that you're going through right now is the absolute best thing that can happen for you right now in this moment. Of course, it may not align with your agenda.
Yes, it doesn't.
Of course, you don't say, well, I want to go out and get in this car accident. But let's say you get in the car accident and you meet a girl at the hospital
Yes.
that becomes your wife, and they get, you know,
Yes.
how the story goes. So, like, you can't see the future, but you can see now, and you can choose the mindset of, well, I don't understand this, but like you said, you kind of grow, you grow that wisdom as you go through these things time and time again, and you know you're going to come out better on the
Yes,
other end.
I knew it was a good thing. I just didn't know what the good thing would be.
Yeah.
I didn't know when it would come. You can't predict, is this pain going to last a week? Is it going to be 3 months? You know, what is it? I couldn't predict any of that and didn't try to. I just had enough confidence that, okay, Clinton, pick up the pieces. It's all going to be good. Something good's really going to happen from this.
Yep.
Okay, and it did. But it took me a while to get practice that, because when you first start going through some bad shit as a young adult, you think it's the end of the world. Mm-hmm. Me getting fired, I thought, fuck, I'm not hireable now. I'm fired. I'm not hireable. Well, you know, 20 years later, I retired at 43. You get what I'm trying to say? It was I joke with the guy, it was Mike and actually Barbie Boyle from California, and we all get along very well. And I joke with Barbie now, you firing me was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. You know what I mean? It forced me to start a business that made me a lot of money, and I got very successful at it. I didn't want to go that direction in life. I really wanted to be a reining horse trainer, but
Right.
my life trajectory caused me to go this way.
Isn't that interesting? The very thing that happened that caused you to throw up for 4 days, you're smiling about, laughing about now, and thanking that guy for that.
Oh, yes.
Same thing happening.
Yes.
Totally different perception.
Yes, but but that comes with maturity, doesn't
Maturity
it?
and
Age.
and just a mindset of it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, and I guess the goal is to have enough awareness to not become overwhelmed in the moment, to have enough awareness to just look at it for what it is, and almost have a gratitude that thing is happening, because it's presenting
I think
an
what you
opportunity.
got, my advice for a young person now going through bad shit is say, okay, I can't control some of this bad shit that's happened to me. You know, you can't control what other people do to you, and you can't control how other people act. But what you can control is you.
Yeah.
So this is shitty. Acknowledge it's shitty. I'm not saying be in denial. Acknowledge it's shitty. If you need to wallow around for 3 days and cry or drink or whatever you need to do, wallow around in the mud, take yourself pity party, get all that shit out of you, get the anger out of you. You know what I mean? Write a letter to whoever's pissed you off and cuss them out in this letter. You know what I mean? That's actually helped me a lot, as gay as it fucking sounds. I've noticed the last few years, if somebody really gets under my skin or really upsets me or fucks me over, I don't carry that inside you. Don't carry that anger. I'll journal. I'll write down. I'll write a letter to that person and absolutely tear strips off them. I'll never send the letter. I burn it. Mm-hmm. But getting that out of your system, and I'll write that letter every day until I don't want to write anything. Like there's no hate there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that just gets all the bad shit out of you. Don't
gotta
carry that
express
around.
it.
Don't.
It will be expressed in some
Yes,
way.
don't carry
Yeah.
that around. I know it sounds silly, but I remember 6 years old, I was crying about, I think my family dog died. His name was Monty. And I remember, this is one of my earliest childhood memories from my mother. And I was sitting on her lap and I was upset. And I asked her, I said, why did Monty have to die? And I suspect that's a question little kids we ask, why do animals die? And she said, I don't remember exactly what she said. And I was crying. And she said, it's okay to cry. You got to let the bad stuff out. Crying is letting the bad stuff out so the good stuff can get in. Well, that's what I did when I wrote down letters and journaled and so forth. Does that make sense? Is getting any anger out of you, any bitterness, any anger, any shit like that out, because it makes you a way better person and it just clears your mind. You don't think about that person anymore. You don't think about any of that anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like a purge.
It's a purge. That's exactly what
Yeah.
it is. It's a purge. So I would just tell a young person, hey, it's shitty.
All of this.
Yes, it's a purge.
The same way.
It
yeah.
is, right? And I, the guy that taught me this, he was a therapist, and I said to him, well, how do I know when I quit riding? How do I know to stop? He said, there's nothing more to say.
Yeah.
Like, you're not angry anymore. You're not happy, but you're just neutral.
You're okay with it.
Yeah, you're okay with it. And he taught me to do it for sadness, happiness, anger. You know what I mean? My good man Mindy died last year. With the 29 years, I was really upset about it. I had to go through all that.
Right.
It's like a death of the family.
Right.
Does that make sense? I had to watch videos of her. I'm sobbing like a 3-year-old. I'm writing letters, and I had to let all that
Who is this
emotion.
individual?
Mindy, it was a mare of mine, Australian Quarter Horse mare.
Okay.
She was with me my whole career and kind of made the company with me. Well, she was with me for 29 and a half years, and she died. So that's like a family member dying. When a horse has been with you that long, you know what I mean? So you got to let all that bad shit out. So when bad shit's happening, just have confidence. Something good's going to come for this. So just like my mother said, look for the open door. Be looking. It will show up. Maybe not as quick as you want it to.
Right.
But it will show up. And when it shows up, run through the motherfucker. Don't walk.
I love it. Yeah. For a long time, I got introduced to Stoic philosophy, and I misunderstood it for a long time because I would just become numb and very apathetic, and I wouldn't feel anything. I mean, you could fucking stab me in the back, and I just wouldn't flinch. But I also didn't feel any joy. I didn't feel any of it. And so what I've come to learn is like, no, it's okay to feel the anger. You're human.
Yes.
You can feel anger, frustration, sadness, happy. Feel all of it. Just don't be overwhelmed by any of it.
I had an employee like 3 weeks ago that really pissed me off, was not prepared for a meeting I had to have with them, was not prepared, didn't get their shit done. It really pissed me off. So when I got off the phone with them, I'm training my horses, and I'm fucking grumbling under my breath. I'm grumbling about this person. You dumb motherfucker. How could you not get your shit together? I warned you. I told you. I'm grumbling, and I'm cranky and taking it out on the horses a little bit. When you're cranky, you're just not as smooth as you normally are. Your mind's not in the game. So I'm riding 3 or 4 horses, and I'm just kind of cranky and grumbling. So I just stopped on the horse immediately, stopped walking a cow. I pulled out my phone, and I just journaled a letter to this employee. Called him every fucking name in the world. It's amazing. Once I wrote all that down and cussed him completely out, all the anger left my body, and I was like happy as fuck. I just went back to training my horse. So I've learned some skills now to get rid of that shit.
Yeah.
You can't have good shit come in when the cup's full of turds. You can't get water in your cup when it's full of shit.
Yeah.
You got to get all your shit out of the cup, and then good shit can get in it. And it was that quick when I wrote that letter. I just wrote it on my phone. Again, you never send the letter. You never show it to anybody. You just write it and then reread it. And you keep doing it until you're just like, fuck, said what I wanted to say. It's over and done with.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it'll gay as fuck, but it works.
No, it does. I can think of how many texts that I've typed out and then just deleted the whole thing.
See, if I'm drinking Captain Morgan, that motherfucker says send every time. if I'm in control, the letters never get sent or the texts. If that motherfucker is in control, that son of a bitch hits send every time.
Captain Clinton.
When the Captain Morgan gets on the high seas and he starts raping, pillaging, and robbing, son of a bitch. The problem with Captain Morgan is, when me and him get together, we get up to some fuckery, okay? And the next morning, when there's consequences for our dumb shit that we did the night before, Captain Morgan's nowhere to be found. He's never around. He's not there. It's Clinton that has to deal with the dumb shit that he did. And I'm like, Captain Morgan was here too. And they said, where's Captain Morgan? I'm like, you motherfucker, where are you? I look around, he's nowhere to be seen. Anyway.
Oh, man. This may be a good segue into the Downunder Horsemanship. I promise we're going to get to all of the business side and the marketing side. But the purple suit, man, you're dressed to the nines. Most of the time I see you out. Where does the suit come from? Because that's not typical Western attire. We spoke a little bit. I'm bringing that up because we spoke a little bit about this at dinner that night.
I always, first of all, clothes make me feel good. I dress for me. I don't dress for anybody else. Because when I put on a nice suit, a nice shirt, a nice blazer, it makes me feel confident, makes me feel good about myself. So step number 1 is you dress to make yourself feel good. Don't dress for some other motherfucker. Dress for you, that when you walk out of the house, you feel like you're a winner and you're ready for success. And that doesn't mean it's a suit. It could be joggers.
Yeah.
It could be what makes you feel like a champion. Does that make sense? That was my first advice. And then after that, I like suits, and I get my suits from Brioni in New York City. Okay, I go up there because I don't like the typical Western blazers because they're big. You know, again, I said this on the Chance podcast. If you want to stand out from the pack, don't look like the pack. And the problem with the Western industry is we've been doing the same shit for 50 years. They never progress. They're so stuck on tradition, and I understand part of that is cool and part of that is important, so I'm not shitting on that. But I'm also saying that there's also a thing is moving forward too. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to dress in an oversized blazer that hangs down past your ass cheeks. It's not fitted to you. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Go to the next Western event and look at most men's blazers. They're not fitted. They're really long. They're baggy. They look like your grandfather wore it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I don't want to wear the shit that everybody else is wearing. So I like stuff that's different. And I've always been like that. Again, if you want to stand out from the pack, don't look like the pack.
Right.
So I brought a suit here because it made me feel good.
Yeah.
Plus, probably nobody's been here with a suit, correct?
I would agree with that.
I rest my case. No, but that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any real difference, but my point is it makes a difference to me.
Yeah.
If you want, it's marketing. If you want to be different, be fucking different. Mm-hmm. That's number one step in marketing. You can't look like everybody else.
Yeah.
You got to be different. If you want to be different, be different. Don't look the same as everybody else. Everybody's so scared to step out of the box. That's what I embrace. Step out of the box. Sure, you'll get some arrows in the back, but you'll get a lot more positive stuff than arrows.
Right.
But everybody's so scared to stay in the, what society wants you to be and how you're supposed to dress and how you're supposed to act and what you're supposed to say. And they're so scared. When you're on your deathbed, do you think your fucking haters really give a shit that you're there? Are you going to be thinking about your haters when you're on life support and you're taking your last breath? No. Yeah. You're not going to be concerned about them. So don't be fucking concerned about them now.
I've got 3 thoughts that just came to mind. So coaches used to say, if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. If you play good, they pay good.
Yes.
That was one thought. Another one is the haters be hating. Mm-hmm. Your content.
The jingle that I did?
Holy shit, dude. I was letting Colt hear that earlier. Who came up with the jingle?
I came up with the jingle. I didn't make the jingle, but I came up with initially I wanted it to be a jingle kind of like the Brady Bunch. That was what was going through my brain. You know how the Brady Bunch, the song is real happy and all this jingle shit? I wanted something jingly that stayed in people's brains because, you remember jingles. You're driving around all day, thinking of the same fucking jingle. So I wanted something jingly, but something that kind of made fun of me and turned negative into positive. One thing I love doing is I like taking negatives and turning it into positives. So I'm going to get hate mail. In fact, I get shit tons of it, okay? Don't hide from that shit. Embrace it. Yeah. So I just took all the hate mail and said, not only am I going to read it, I'm going to make fun of myself, I'm going to make fun of you, and we're going to laugh about it because it doesn't hurt me. So I turn negative into positives. And what's funny from that jingle, so I had my marketing company make the jingle. I told them, the parameters. I wanted it to be rank. I wanted it to be bad language. I wanted it to be making fun of me. And I wanted it to be something that would make people laugh. And they nailed it, absolutely nailed it. What's funny? I've been doing that jingle now for about a year. It's amazing how much my hate mail's cut back.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because the quickest way to get people not to do something is encourage them to do it. It's reverse psychology.
Yeah.
The more I've embraced hate on me, people are fucking backing off because they know it doesn't affect me. Not only that, Mike, I call them out. I say their name on live camera. This came from Mike Roberts. You know what I mean? It's funny when you see the internet gave people balls. The internet gave people balls. The keyboard gave people balls to say shit that they never say in public. Well, when I start calling out people's names, they're like fucking reeling that shit in. Clinton might call you out. Yeah. So we're actually now struggling to get as much hate to do the new because I said to Rochelle the other day, I said, I haven't seen any jingles lately. And she said, yeah, we're having trouble finding people that are sending us shit. And I said, goddamn, I'm going to have to be more controversial. You know what I mean? But that's a funny thing. That's a great example of turning negative press into positive press.
Right.
Turn a negative into a positive. Everybody's so worried about fitting in. Mm-hmm. I want to not fit in. Does that make sense?
When did you become okay with that? Because that's evolutionary. As humans, that's how we survived. We had to be part of a tribe. People had to like us or we died. At what point were you okay with, I'm going to be me, and if you align with that, that's awesome. And if you don't, that's fine too.
Honestly, I probably always had that natural inclination to be like that, even from a kid. My parents probably wanted to kill me because I always did the opposite of what they wanted to do. If you said turn left, I want to go fucking right. I hate being controlled, Mike. So that was just part of my nature. If you said jump, I want to lay on the ground. If you want me to lay on the ground, just say, Clinton, I bet you can't lay on the ground. And I'd probably lay on the ground. The quickest way to get me to do something is just tell me I can't do it. Yeah. So I've always had that natural tendency, but I think, especially the last 5 years since, I'm 48 now, I'll be 49 this year. I officially retired as far as being on the road and really pushing my business when I was 43. I just had enough. You get to a point where you just had enough. And you just can't handle shit anymore. So you're just not going to hide it anymore. People say, well, Clinton, you never used to swear and you never used to do that. I watched you on RFD TV for 15 years. Well, I didn't own RFD TV. I had to toe the line. Patrick Gouch owned it, so he didn't allow swearing. So if I want to be on TV, I can't swear. It's not that I'm different. I'm still the same person I've always been, Mike, except now I just don't give a fuck if people like it or hate it. People ask what the greatest thing about being retired is. I tell you what it is. It's not really the money. What it is, Mike, is the freedom to be you, where you can just do what you want to do when you want to do it. You can associate who you want to associate with. I'm here because I want to have an interesting conversation with you, not because I have to be here, not because you're paying me, not because I'm paying you. You get what I'm saying? I'm here of free choice. Right. You get to live your life like that. So I tell every young person out there, work your ass off, save your money, invest your money, really take care of your finances. So one day, that annoying piece of shit customer that's driving you nuts, you can tell them to fuck off. You don't have to do business with them.
Right.
But when you're young and you're broke, what do you have to do, Mike? Yes, sir.
Yes, a lot.
I'd love to do that. Yes, sir. And I did that for many, many years. Every old lady that cussed me out, every old lady that drove me to drinking, she'd say the dumbest shit in the world. And I'd say, ma'am, thank you so much. I really appreciate that point of view. And I'll consider that next time. And I just make them feel good about themselves. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to keep saving my money. I'm going to keep investing my money because there's going to be a day where I'm done, swallowing your turds. And I'm at that point now. So I'm like Trump. You either love him or you hate him. I love Trump, but he's very polarizing, isn't he? Democrats fucking hate him. Republicans love him. I'm very much like that, and I'm okay with that. Right. I don't do what I do or say what I say to create enemies. This is just who I am. So either be friends with me or not. I'm good either way. So it's probably been a natural inclination. I've always been, I'm not going to say a rebel, but I just don't like being controlled. That would be the best way of saying it. Because I'm a red with the color code. Remember, reds are driven by power. So like in the book, he says, if you've got a red kid, reds are motivated by power. Don't tell them what to wear for school today. Give them 3 outfits and say, you choose.
Yeah. Which personality test is that?
It's called the color code. It was invented by a guy called Taylor Hartman. That's who it is, Taylor Hartman. It's called the color code. And there's 4 colors, red, blue, yellow, and white. And we're all a mutt.
You know what's interesting, though?
We're all a mutt.
I took all of these things when I sold pharmaceuticals, but I didn't fit into one of the colors. I was what they call a brown.
Well, everybody's a mutt, but you have one color that dominates your personality. So, like, for example, reds are dominated by power, blues are dominated by intimacy, whites are dominated by peace, and yellows are dominated by fun. Like, okay, I'll give you a perfect yellow, okay? I'm going to say his name. This person is the poster child for fucking yellow. You ready? Jesse Lennox. Yellow.
And
bubbly.
What are they?
Bubbly, fun. Everything
yeah.
is motivated by fun.
Yeah.
Jesse's always fucking smiling. He's always fucking happy. How you doing, Clinton? Great to see you. What's going on? Like everything's a party for Jesse, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure he gets down or has bad days, but as a general rule,
truly,
he is a fun guy.
I've seen him get frustrated, but really not a bad day.
No,
for
you get
a moment, but
for a moment he's human,
bubbly, yeah.
but he's upbeat, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's yellow. He's the poster child for yellow.
Yeah.
Everything's about fun. If it ain't fun, he ain't fucking with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wants everything to be fun. And that's not bad, but we're all a mutt. So I'm like 66% red, 24% yellow, 14% blue, and I have no white at all. And whites are driven by patience. So that's why I'm pushy, demanding, I have no patience. So you don't all just fit into one color. You are a mutt. Okay, we're all a mutt, but you have one color that dominates you more than the others, which means one color will be your default. So reds are driven by power. We want to be right. Reds build the skyscrapers, we build the bridges, we start businesses, we conquer. Okay?
Very type A.
That type A. So that sounds positive, but there's always a negative to every color. Remember, whatever your greatest strength is in life will also be your Achilles heel. So so I just said we build skyscrapers, bridges, dominate, we build businesses, we make money. You'll say, great, that's all great. No, here's the negative. People hate us. We're pushy. We'll fire your mother on Christmas Eve. We take no prisoners. We don't give a shit about excuses. When I say show up at fucking 8, it's fucking 8. It's not 8:10. We piss people off. We're not going to put up with excuses. If you're not getting the job done, I'm going to fire you.
Would you say detail-oriented would be part of that as well?
Yeah, detail, but we hate incompetence. So if you're an incompetent person around us, Steve Jobs was a red. He hated incompetent people around him. Read his book. He couldn't stand. He always said, B players and C players don't deserve to eat at the table with A players.
Right.
That, to me, that's a very logical thing. B players and C players don't eat with A players.
Right.
Now, to a blue, which is driven by intimacy, they're like, what a piece of shit. Everybody's got feelings and everybody should be loved and we should all just eat together. And reds say, fuck that. Winners eat. Losers starve. It's just the way we're wired. Does that make sense? It doesn't make one color better than the rest. Now, reds, we always think we're better when we're not. You know what I mean? But it's a joke. But my point is, you need the whole fucking color code to make the world work.
Yeah.
So get on the website. He has a free test. Don't take that one. It's like $50. Do the paid one and take the paid test. And it's funny. They ask you questions, but they want you to answer them when you're a kid. They don't want you to think like an adult. They want you to specifically think, like one of the questions is like, you're on the playground and your best friend is getting bullied and he's getting into a fight. What do? A, jump in there and whip the guy's ass that's picking on him. B, run and tell a teacher. C, do nothing. Or D, cheer on the fight. That's just an example.
Right.
But the reason he wants you to answer the questions as a kid, because kids are the most honest.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
I don't have kids, but I know they're fucking honest. Like, Mommy, you look fat. Thanks, honey. You know what I mean? They don't mean to be rude, but they just call it how they see it.
Yeah.
But now, when we get to be adults, we learn to lie. We learn to hold the truth because we don't want to hurt
Inhibitions
somebody's
kick in.
feeling.
Yep.
You know, when your girlfriend or wife says, honey, do I look fat in this dress? Every man wants to say, oh, no, baby, you look awesome. When the truth is, yeah, you're fucking fat. You need to lose 10 pounds. You know what I mean? But he's not going to say that if he wants any pussy. He's not going to say that. But we learn to lie as adults. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's funny that the girl I'm with now, I really like her a lot, and we met a little over a year ago, and when I just started dating her, and she was on the bigger side, and she said to me, like on the second date, she said, am I too big for you? Like, do you think I'm overweight? And I said, here's my deal. Every man, some men have types. Some men like really little tiny women, and other guys like chubby chasers. They like big fat women. I said, I don't really like either extreme. I'm in a range between really tiny and kind of where you are. But I said, where you are, you're right on the fucking line. So don't eat that right now. Because if you step over that line, we're fucking done. You know what she did? She looked at me and she said, I needed that. She said, I knew you, she said, this was a test. She said, I knew your answer, but I wanted to see if you had the balls to tell me. And I said, yeah, I do have the balls. Yeah. I said, I doesn't mean I hate you. I'm just saying I'm not attracted to big fat women. And guess what? She's lost 100 fucking pounds in a year. Dude. She is smoking hot now. Smoking hot. She lost a ton of weight. I got her a new set of tits. This bitch is a 10. This bitch is a 10. She's smoking hot now. But she said to me, she said, I was not gonna keep seeing you if you lied to me. She said, I knew what the answer was. I knew I was overweight. But she said, most guys don't have the balls to say it. Yeah. She said, that's why I wanted to keep seeing you. She said, I needed to lose the weight for me. But see, she said, but I needed you to fucking put it in my face. Does that make sense? I've lost a bunch of weight on the carnivore diet. I'm on the carnivore diet. So I've gone from almost 36 pants down to 33 and almost 32 now, okay? It all started because some lady wrote on a post, man, you're a fat fuck. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of am a fat fuck. So it was shame's a good motivator.
Yeah.
You need to be a little shamed in life to step back in the line. Does that make sense?
Let me ask you this. That's a great, I don't know how to ask it, but like, where is the line between like, the truth needs to be told and disrespect? Does it just lie in the intention maybe?
Oh, maybe so. Yes, in the intention. Alison Armstrong, she's a relationship coach I followed for many, many years. She's really good. And I'll steal this saying from her. It did not come from me. She says this, and I live by this. When you water down the truth, you water down the transformation. Say it again. When you water down the truth, you water down the transformation. I could have told my girlfriend, well, baby, you're a little bit heavy, but you know what? I still like you. I'd like to keep... That's watering that shit down. I said, yeah, you're fat. Don't fucking eat that. You're right on the line. If you step over it, we're done. And I'm not being mean. I've just met her twice. Does that make sense? I wasn't mean about it. You asked the question.
Right.
Now, would I have told her that if she wouldn't have asked? No. That's because I'm not trying to hurt her feelings. I'm not trying to poke her in the eye. That's what I said to you when we started this podcast. I said, be careful what you fucking ask me because I will goddamn answer it. I just have that. I don't have that filter. I've always been like that. I'm allergic to not telling the truth. So she asked me, what about my weight? Am I too big? What do you think about it? She asked me. I didn't bring this conversation up. So for every woman on there that's listening and thinks I'm a major piece of shit, remember that now, ladies. I did not fucking bring this subject up. But I could have lied to her. But I told her the truth. She lost 100 pounds and had a transformation. If I would have watered down that truth, she may not have lost fucking any weight.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. I love it.
So maybe it's the intention. I don't want to be rude to people, but I don't want to lie to people.
Right.
I think a lot of people would rather be fucking lied to than the truth. I'd rather the truth. That lady shamed me online and she said, I was almost 36 jeans. And she said, you turn into a fat fuck. And at first it stabbed me in the heart. And then I'm like, you're fucking right. I am starting to be a fat fuck.
Funny, dude.
So I did something about it.
Along those same lines, I was at a red light the other day, and I was questioning if this was kind or not. So there's this gap between like the turn lane going into McDonald's, and I'm like, God, was that being kind to let that person into McDonald's where he's going to go eat the burger that's even one burger closer to a heart attack, or like should I have been just drove ahead?
Yeah.
But I'd like to transition. I've been promising we're going to get to this Downunder Horsemanship thing and the business side of things, but I'm going to start with a quote that your buddy Gordon McKinley said. There's not enough hours in the day and with your own two hands to get rich. And for whatever reason, the power of leverage has just been like intuitive to me, and I never really could understand the 9-to-5 thing. I never could get on board with what society tried to paint as the picture of like check these boxes to equal success or live the American dream, which is why I'm a real estate investor. I have rental property, and I don't have to be there 9 to 5.
Yes.
You somehow figured that out too, though, in the Western world where you said it earlier, folks are rooted in tradition. This is how you do it. This is the blueprint. You broke out of that mold and you did your own thing. So I'd like to use that quote from Gordon as a segue into Downunder Horsemanship, and I know it evolved over time. What got you thinking that way, or how did you come up with that mindset? It
started with that saying. Gordon, he's passed away now probably 10 years, but he had lots of cool little sayings. He always said, like another one was starting Colts, he always used to say, Clinton, the more times you pick yourself up out of the dirt, the better your groundwork gets. Which means every time you get bucked off a colt, it's because you did a piss poor job of preparation. You didn't prepare him. You had holes in your foundation, your groundwork, and he bucked your ass off. If you did your fucking job right, you wouldn't be bucked off. So he'd have a saying, the more times you pick yourself off the ground, the better your groundwork gets. So he had a knack for little sayings, and one of them, I very vividly remember, I was probably 14 years old when he told me that one. There's not enough hours in the day and with your own two hands to get rich. So unless you're a painter or gold sculptor, or unless you do some sort of artistic shit that is so rare that nobody in the world can duplicate or do, there's just not enough hours to get rich because you have to touch it. And that always stuck in my mind. I've always liked making money. I'm not ashamed of that. A lot of people want to hide that. I always loved making money, even from a kid, paper routes and markets and selling shit. And I always loved making money. And I think I loved making money because as a kid, especially a red kid, I could buy my own toys. As a kid, you were driven, you had Christmas, that you got something, and you got your birthday. Beyond that, my parents always had the attitude, if you want something, Clinton, you better buy it yourself. So that's why I like making money, because every kid likes cool toys, you know what I mean? So I was always driven to make money. Now, I pissed it all away as a kid, but I bought shit that I wanted to buy. So I've always had a spark for making money. I love making money because I could do what I felt like for me, making money was a form of power for me. I wasn't leveraged by you. See, if you were my parents and I wanted this fucking bike and it wasn't my birthday and Christmas wasn't close, I'm screwed. Well, if I could go earn my own money, well, fuck you, Mum and Dad, I'll go buy my own bike. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? For me, it was a power trip, but I didn't have to go to you to get what I wanted. I could go get what I wanted.
How old were you when that clicked?
Oh, that was early. I vividly remember, I don't know what age, but I probably was 6, 7. It was pretty young. I wanted this remote control car. It was called the Hornet, okay? It was a remote control car as a kid. And I remember going to my dad saying, Dad, this is really fucking cool, and I want this and blah, blah, blah. And he listened to me, and very calmly, he just looked at me and said, well, go make some money and buy it yourself. Just real calm. And I said, what? He said, go make some money and buy it yourself. And my little brain didn't compute, but then it clicked, and it's like, I can actually go make my own money? He said, yeah. And I said, well, how do I do that? He said, you do jobs around the house. You do extra work. You mow people's lawns. You pay for it. He gave me some suggestions. And then I never realized that was an option. I was little. Yeah. I didn't know that I could go make my own shit. So once I figured out that I could go make my own money, it was like, fucking game on, motherfucker. Fuck Santa Claus. I can go get my own shit. Does that make sense? So that's what got me on the trip of making money. So I've always been naturally driven to make money. Like, even as a kid, it's a little embarrassing now, but fuck it, I'll say it. Me and a buddy of mine, his name was Brett Swilks. So they used to have these things in every town has local markets. Like I think they call it a farmer's market over here. Like a farmer's market, but I don't know what they call it over here, but it's the concept of farmer's market where you got street vendors and tables, but it's just a regular market. So they're selling all kinds of arts and crafts and toys and just shit, basically. Kind of like, think of like a fucking garage sale, like an organized garage sale. They had this thing called the Raintree. It was in Cairns, Raintree Markets, okay? Me and my buddy got together. I don't know how we came up with this, but we did it. We said we had a bunch of fucking toys that we didn't like anymore and were old. So we went down and we would go to these markets, and we figured out you could buy a table for $20. So you buy a 10 by 4 foot table, and that was your table for the day on a Saturday. We collected up all our old toys and shit that we didn't use, and we took it down to the markets. We conned our parents into taking us down there. So we put all our toys and shit we didn't like anymore on this table, and we put little price tags on everything. We split $160 after we paid for the table, so we made $80 a piece. We were like fucking rich. Yeah. Like, to us, $80 as a kid, we were probably 8 years old, seriously. $80 to us was like a shit ton of money each. So that's what we did every week. We'd go back to fucking Raintrees and sell more shit. Now, when we ran out of all our shit, you know what we did? I just went around to all the other vendors and bought shit from them, brought it back to my table, ripped the label off, added $4 and put it on my table. We did that for like 3 fucking years. We make bank on that shit. So I always had that entrepreneurial brain is what can we do to make money? What can we do to grow? You know what I mean? So I've always had that bug in me, but Gordon really got me thinking about how do you get rich? I always wanted to be rich. I'm not ashamed to say it. I always had a goal of being retired by 40. I missed it by 3 years. A couple of divorces fucked me up. But I always had a goal, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I wanted to be retired by 40. You know, it's funny, in the Western world, everybody thinks it's a sin to talk about money, or it's shameful, or it's dirty. Fuck that. I didn't want to be poor. And even though Gordon was a phenomenal man and a phenomenal horseman, he was horrible with money. He was horrible. He just didn't manage it correctly. He gave too much shit away. Gordon was a big old, just pay me next time. Good old boy. Don't worry about the shoeing. Don't worry about the training. You'll fix me up next time. No, you can't be a good old boy and make it. I'm not saying you overcharge people, and I'm not saying you don't give good service, but he was too far the good old boy. Does that make sense? And his wife, Enid, would always get pissed at him about giving too much shit away. So I kind of knew instinctively I didn't want to fucking die broke. That scared me. You know what I mean? It scared me. I didn't want to die broke. And So that kind of got me thinking on that, you know what I mean? And I made my first 3 videotapes, VHS tapes, when I went back to Australia. I would have been 21 or 20 years old at that point. And I made my first 3 videotapes because I knew that...
Were you on your own then?
Yes, I was on my own. Yep, I was on my own. And
Was Downunder Horsemanship a thing at that point?
yes, it was. I don't know if I named it Downunder
How did you
Horseman.
come up with that name?
I think it was just easy. It was just I was Australian, so it was down under. You know what I mean? I did not name. I came up with that. The actual name of the method that we kind of go by now is the method. That came up by my marketing company. That wasn't me. They came up with that concept, which was awesome. But I just knew that there was only so many horses I could train in a day, and I was exhausted. And if I wasn't happy with that dollar figure, how the fuck do I make more? I can't invent more hours. And I'm already working a lot. You know, I'm doing 14, 15 hours a day. I can't work 23. So I've always had that natural inclination of how can I duplicate myself? And I always saw a lot of, in Australia and America, you know, let's be honest, there's a lot of broke fucking horse trainers out there that didn't take care of their money. I'm not saying they're not good human beings. They were probably great human beings. But it's not something I aspired to. I didn't want to die broke in a fucking trailer in New Mexico in a single wide trailer. You know what I mean?
With your body beat up. And...
You get what I'm saying? I
Oh,
just
yeah.
didn't want to do that. I always wanted, and especially for me, I don't have children and I'm not married and I'll never get married again, but I don't have family out there. So I've got to have somebody, you know, if I get to 60, 70, 80 and I got Alzheimer's, I got to get put in a home. Well, a lot of people get abused in a home. A lot of people get, you know, they shit themselves and they're sitting there for 9 hours straight. I want to be in the fucking Ritz-Carlton. Does that make sense? I want to be in that nursing home. Yeah, I might have some 18-year-old bitch and walking around in a thong taking care of me and she hates my guts, but God damn it, I'm going to be taken care of. Does that make sense? So I always had that fear of dying broke and not having money to take care of me. I still might die alone. Everybody dies alone. I'm good with that, but I don't want to be dying alone and not have care. So that drove me to making a lot of money. That drove me to saving, investing. Does that make sense? Because I literally have no family here. I'm on my fucking own. There was no plan B, and that was part of my success. I didn't have parents' money to lay back on. No, you know what I mean? There was no plan B. When I came to America, there isn't no plan B. If this doesn't work, you get to go do this. This has to work.
Right.
There is a lot to be said about no plan B. No plan B means when you're exhausted, you're tired, and you want to give up, you can't.
Look, go back to those early days. So you get fired from the deal out in California. What's the next thing? Like, talk to me about like the early days of Downunder
I
Horsemanship.
just started doing little horsemanship lessons around Ione, California, Northern California. And these were customers that I met when I worked for Mike and Barbie Boyle. And I was charging like $35 a lesson. So I'd drive this Dodge Neon car around and go from house to house or ranch to ranch giving them lessons.
Dodge Neon.
Yeah, little
car,
Dodge
wow.
Neon. Yeah.
What color was it?
It was green. Here's what's funny about America. I didn't know this. See, when I came to America, I had no credit history. In America, no credit is worse than bad credit. If you've got bad credit, they'll loan you money. If you've got zero credit, they think you're an alien. Does that make sense? So to establish credit, I had my father-in-law co-sign for me on a Dodge Neon. It was 16 grand. It was like 3% interest. We saved up 2 or 3 grand and put down on it, and he co-signed for us. And that's how I established credit for the first time, is I needed to buy something new and start getting credit established. So I drove this Dodge Neon around and gave local lessons. And then from there, it just kind of grew. Initially, I did not want to be a clinician. I thought, okay, I'm just going to save up some money, you know, get 50 grand saved up, go buy a yearling, go back working for a reining trainer again and start showing, okay, and start training and showing. But it just kind of got a hold of me. The money was rolling in. It just kind of grew and grew. And one lesson turned into 2 people and then turned into 3 people. And it kind of happened to me like that in Australia too. Before I left, you would send me a colt to start for 6 weeks. So at 6 weeks, you come pick your horse up. So I'd ride the horse for an hour and a half, show you everything it learnt. And then as an owner, the owner would say, hey, Clinton, I really liked what you did, but I can't remember all this. Can I bring this colt back 2 weeks from now and you give me a lesson? Well, I'm fucking broke, Mike. I need money. So I'm saying, sure, you know, $50, come back, or now back in those days, probably $30. For $30, come back and I'll give you an hour lesson. And I started finding that I got way more business in giving lessons than what I did training horses. People are like, well, I like the way you teach. I like the way you explain things. And then I got to doing so many lessons that a group of ladies said, hey, Clinton, instead of us coming to you, how about we have all these ladies come to my place and you come to us? Well, that's the start of a little clinic, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So then I go to somebody's place and several people show up, and that's where I start leveraging my time, isn't it? I'm there for an hour, but I'm teaching 5 people instead of 1, theoretically. When it's one-on-one, see, that's why lawyers have to charge what they charge, because all they're selling is an hour. They don't get to sell multiple hours. It's an hour. Where if I've got $100 per lady, but I've got 5 ladies, I'm making $500 for that hour. Does that make sense? So I didn't mean to do it. I got way more popular in the teaching part of my business than what I actually did in the horse training part. And because I was broke, I didn't care where the fucking money came from. I just need to eat. You get what I'm saying? I didn't care where it came from. And back in those days, I enjoyed teaching and I liked it, but it wasn't like what I wanted to do, but I needed to eat. So when you're broke, there's a thing called motivation, isn't it? You got to eat. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got into the clinics, is I did a lot of clinics in Australia before I came to America. So when I got fired, I knew I was good at teaching. I knew how to run a clinic. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And initially...
What is the vision though, right? Because at some point you end up with 40 employees and you're grossing 14 million. But at that time, in those early days, what's the vision that
survive? In those early days, I'm just trying to eat. I got no money. You remember me? I'm just newly married. I've got no money. I'm broke. I'm in a foreign country. I'm just trying to survive at that point. And initially, again, my goal was just to do local lessons and clinics for maybe a year or 2 at best.
And you want to go back to reining training.
I want to go back to being a performance horse trainer. Because I remember back in those days, Avila was really big. Tim McQuay was big. I'm trying to think who else was big back in those days. But there was only about 3 or 4 trainers back then that had enough stock that once they picked their top 3 futurity horses, that their second guy in command could have 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. There wasn't any for a third stringer. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if you weren't working for one of those top 2 or 3 guys, you were just riding colts. You were never going to get to show because the trainer was struggling to find good enough horses for him to show, let alone leftovers for you. So my theory was, well, fuck it, I'll just go buy my own yearling, go buy a well-bred yearling, train it myself, and that's how I'll go show. So I just thought, I'll make money teaching, save up 50, 60 grand, go buy, back in those days, you could buy a damn good yearling for 30 grand, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then get back with a reining horse trainer, train my own horse after work, and get back into it. But after a couple of years, I'll just be honest, the money got a hold of me. It grew so quickly that it was a little bit like crack cocaine. It's like, well, fuck, within 2 years, I think I grossed $360,000 in the first 2 years. Well, that was
Still
a lot
in
of
California?
money. No, I'd moved back to Texas by that point.
Texas,
I met a guy in Texas, in Pottsboro, Texas, and moved to his ranch. I just had a single wide trailer that me and my wife lived in, and I just started traveling, doing clinics to clinics. I think what you're asking is, when did the light bulb go off that this could be big? Like, is that what you're asking? Was there a moment when I'm like, okay, motherfucker, this could be really big?
Well, I just didn't know that. I do want to know that, yes, but I was just wondering what was the vision at the time, and you answered it. You were just hungry and trying to
eat, survive,
make a living.
And I knew there was way more money in teaching than what there was in riding horses. I knew I could make more money teaching than what I could riding horses. When the light bulb went off after about 2 years, I went to the California Western States Horse Expo. So this might have been like 1999, maybe 2099. And back in those days, Monty Roberts was really big. Pirelli was big. John was big. So they were your big 3 heavy hitters. Monty Roberts was way bigger, and John and Pat were a close second. And I got into that expo because you remember, this is before RFD TV. So the only times as a horseman, the only way you could market yourself was through magazines. And I didn't have $7,500 for a full-page Western Horseman ad. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Full-page color ad. I didn't have that kind of money. So you had to get to these equine expos. There was Equitana, Western States Horse Expo, Equifest. There was a bunch of them. There was like 8 or 9 of them, okay? And magazines. Well, I couldn't have money for magazines, so I went to the Equine Expo. So somehow I weaseled my way into Western States Expo. I think I sent him my 3 videotapes and said, I'm Australian. I would use the Australian angle. Hey, it's different, blah, blah, blah. And when I got to that expo, I specifically went and saw Pirelli, John, and Monty Roberts. And I specifically sat in the crowd and watched their demonstrations. Now, what I'm going to say is going to sound like I'm a piece of shit, but fuck it, I'm going to say it. I watched them, and they were getting crowds of 3,500, 4,000 people. This is big, okay? And I watched them, and I thought, and the crowd's eating this shit up. They love it, all of them. And I thought to myself, okay, if you guys think this shit is good, you ain't seen nothing yet. I was motivated. I was like, okay, if you think these three motherfuckers are good with a horse, I'm about to kick their ass. And you can call me arrogant, you can call me a piece of shit, you can call I'm overly confident, but that's where it started. But guess what? It turned out pretty good, didn't it? You get what I'm saying? You got to be half arrogant. You got to have if you're going to be in the public's eye and you're going to be number one, you got to be half arrogant. You got to be overly confident because
Well, if you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it.
there's enough people that are attacking you in life that if you have any chink in your armor, they're going to take you the fuck down.
Yeah.
You got to think you're invincible. And I looked at the crowd and said, you guys have seen nothing yet. And that's when I realized, and the other thing that went through my mind, I forgot about this. It's funny how this conversation is tweaking things in my head. Pirelli probably would have been 45, 46. He probably would have been about the age I am now, maybe a little younger. And I was like 21, okay? I looked around and there was no other clinicians in my age group. Everybody, there was like a bunch of mid-40s going on 50-year-olds. And I thought to myself, what happens when these guys retire? Like, who's the next wave? Who's the next guy that's going to be big? And I looked around, there's fucking nobody there. And I'm 21, 22 maybe. And I'm thinking, if I get in now and work my ass off, when these guys retire, I'll be in number one. So I didn't wait for them to retire. I pushed them. You get what I'm saying? I was pushy. I was right up their ass forever. And they knew it too. Well, they didn't know it in the beginning, but they knew it later on. But I didn't wait around. But I saw a big opening there. Because back in those days, you got to remember, John was probably grossing, well, I know he was, because the manager he had at the time managed me. He was grossing about $6 million a year back in those days. That was unfathomable
That's
for me.
late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, early 2000. He was grossing $5 million a year and probably keeping at least 2.5. That was a lot of money. You get what I'm saying? This is when the dot-com era was coming in. The baby boomers were all retiring. Money was flowing. The Horse Whisperer movie came out. You know what I mean? The whole natural horsemanship industry was taking off. There was a fucking tsunami of money that was rolling.
Were you still the only clinician from Australia at that time?
Yes, I was. You know, Chris Cox always kind of said he was from Australia. He's an American, but he spent some time in Australia. So Chris kind of acts like he's from Australia, but he's an American. But yeah, so to be perfectly honest, I was the only Australian that actually was from Australia doing it. And there was others that showed up. You know, Dan James is a phenomenal horseman. Oh, there's another guy, I can't remember his fucking name now, but he's from Australia. So there's several others, but I was the only other one that did that. But that's when I realized, okay, if this guy's doing $5 million and you're this like this, and I don't want to be derogatory to John Lyons because I have a lot of respect for him because I actually don't think John and I were competitors for many years, but I have a very healthy respect for him because I don't think John gets anywhere near the credit he deserves for the whole horsemanship culture in America. You know, I think Ray Hunt and Tom Dorrance get all the praise for horsemanship. And I'll just say it, I think it's overrated. I think John was the one that hit the bushes for many years. John was the one that took sponsors on. John was the one that advertised himself. The real pioneer in marketing in America was John Lyons. And I'll say that to the day I drop dead. Now, we have completely different views on training horses. We are like oil and water. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean John's wrong and I'm right. We're just different. Remember what I said in the beginning? There's no right and wrong answer, is there? There's the way I do it and the way you do it. You pick what team. But John doesn't, in my opinion, get anywhere near the credit he deserves for pioneering. He was the first guy to get in magazines. He was the first guy to take on sponsors. He was the first guy to actually advertise and put out full-page, full-color ads. He was the first guy to do symposiums, which is kind of like tours. You get what I'm saying? He influenced, I think, hundreds of thousands of people all over the world, way more than what Ray Hunt and Tom Dorrance did. I think those two get a lot of credit because it's the cool thing to do. It's the Western way. You know, you pay homage to the two guys that died, and it was the cool thing to pay homage to those guys. And I'm not saying they didn't change things, and I'm not saying they're not good horsemen. Right. I want to make that perfectly clear. I'm just saying I think they got way more credit than what other people got that did. Another one that didn't get enough credit either was Monty Foreman. He was well before his time as well. Monty Foreman, I studied a lot of his books early on and early videotapes. He was a pioneer. He was way ahead of his time.
I've never heard the name.
Monty
Where's he
Foreman.
from?
Look up. I don't know exactly where he's from, but
America, though?
Yeah, he's from America. He was a horrible people person, though. He had terrible bedside manner. You think I'm rough. He was way rougher than me as far as with people, but he was a fucking hand, and he was a pioneer, and he was way ahead of his time. He was back in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, but he didn't get anywhere near the credit he deserved. So I think when I realized if John Lyons is making $5 million a year, or grossing that and netting 2.5, and he's doing it like this, I can really whip this in the ass. I can really give this a run for the money. So that's when I decided, fuck it, I'm going to make this a career, and I'm going to be a clinician, because I felt like that could be a way that I could make a lot of money. I could get retired early. Again, I don't know where 40 came from, but I always had a goal to be retired by 40. I don't honestly know where that number came from. It just was. And I thought that was the way to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I looked at my competition and I said, this ain't shit. I can do better.
Yeah.
Call me arrogant. I don't give a fuck, but that's what I thought. But I think you've got to have some of that arrogance to be good. You can't self-doubt.
What fascinates me about any horse trainer, whether you're cutting horse, roper, reining, or a clinician, you have to be an expert in that thing, in horse training. And the ones that do it and do it well for a long period of time are able to combine the business savviness with that, right? Let's look at Trevor Brazil. I don't know him, but outside looking in, looks like he did the hard part. He built the name Trevor Brazil, but he's also a very savvy business
Very
guy.
much so.
Appears to be. Again,
Yes,
I
he
don't
is.
know him.
No, he is.
And I look at you the same way. Like, you understand the horse, the mentality of a horse. You know how to train. You also know how to teach it, and you know how to market it and package it and sell it.
You got to be, if you had to build your ideal clinician, there's five things that make that, and you need all 5 building blocks to be number one in this game, in game of teaching. Okay. First of all, you have to be a great horseman. You have to be able to get around a lot of horses. And I got all that experience from Australia. So you could drop off an 8-year-old stud that never been touched before, and I can get it caught, saddled, and ready to ride in 3 hours. That's not easy to do. You get what I'm saying? And you got to be able to handle. So I got all my experience with ugly horses, bad horses, badly trained horses. I got all that in my younger years. So you got to be a hell of a hand, number one. You got to be a great public speaker. You got to be charismatic. When you're in front of 3,000 people, you're not just there to educate them. You're there to entertain them. You're there to keep them laughing. You're there to keep them engaged. It's not an easy feat to keep, 3,500 people engaged for 3 hours and not getting up and going to the toilet. Does that make sense? You got to keep them engaged. So you got to be a great public speaker. You got to be a great marketer. You got to be a great businessman, is know how to run a business. And the last part is you got to be a great investor. You got to know where to put that money. If you're missing one of those 5 spokes, you're not going to get to the best. Yeah, I know a lot. I've told this many times live on camera. There are thousands of horsemen and women that are way better than me at training a horse. I openly admit that. I'm not naturally gifted. I got good at it because I worked really hard, but I'm not naturally gifted, and there's many people much better than me. But I was naturally gifted at talking. I was naturally gifted at training horses, at teaching. I was naturally gifted at making money and marketing, and I was naturally gifted at investing. Does that make sense? But I wasn't naturally gifted at training a horse. There are many, many other people that are way better than me at training a horse. But typically those people are horrible with their money, horrible with their investing, horrible with their marketing. They're terrible. But they're phenomenal horsemen, absolutely the best. And right now, people are listening to this saying, yep, I can name 4 guys that all were phenomenal horsemen that died broke.
Right.
That's not a pride of joy for me.
Where did you learn the speaking part of it?
I was just naturally a good bullshitter.
Really?
Yeah,
you wouldn't like write out your
No.
what you're going to talk about?
No, the only thing I would do, like when I made those first 3 VHS tapes, I had a piece of paper in my pocket, and I had just like 4 or 5 subjects I want to talk about, and I wing it. Still to this day, when I get in front of a camera, I just have a topic, and I don't do anything else. I don't have bullet points. Like, I'm really fucking uneducated. Like, if I have to read a teleprompter, it sounds like Hooked on Phonics. Like, seriously, a 6-year-old sounds more professional to me. Like, if I have to read I have to sometimes do commercials for sponsors, and I have to read a teleprompter, I fucking hate it. Spot said jump, go, green ham and eggs. Like, that's how I sound. And I get pissed off, and I just tell me the general gist of what this motherfucker wants. Stanley hay, it's the greatest hay in the world. What you got to do is you got to feed forage first, no grain, take care of your horse, make it work for you. Remember, forage, Stanley, Clinton Anderson, winner. You get what I'm saying? You see the difference? When I have to read a script, I'm literally fucking retarded. I've got Down syndrome. When I just wing this shit, give me the bullet points, I'm really good. So I know what I'm bad at. I'm not dyslexic, I'm just fucking stupid, okay? So I just wing it.
Right.
And I'm good at winging it. But if I have to plan it or structure it, I'm too robotic.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh,
I cannot read a teleprompter to save myself. Like, you remember on Ron Burgundy when he reads a teleprompter and he says, go fuck yourself, San Francisco? That's me. When I read a teleprompter, anything that's on the teleprompter, I will say. It's one of my favorite movies.
Like, there's no filter between that and the teleprompter.
I might have to do a few takes. I don't get it right every single time, but I just can't be scripted. It just doesn't work for me.
No, I just meant like whatever comes through, you're going to say it.
Oh,
like
yeah. Fuck yeah.
So I'm going to read a quote of yours, but it's going to lead into a question. So you're talking about your retirement, and you say fun is my focus now. Mm-hmm. Were you not having fun during the Downunder Horsemanship days?
Maybe in the first couple of years it was fun because you're growing quickly and you got your first employee and then your second employee and then your third. And after you get about 3 employees, you soon figure out you're a fucking professional babysitter of adults. Every manager that's
laughing because
every manager that's
listening
listening to this right now is like, yep, Clinton's fucking speak it. Everybody that's never run their own business, never managed their people, Clinton's a piece of shit. Why do you say that? You turn into a professional babysitter for adults. And I fucking hated that part of the business. At my peak, I had 40 employees. And all you're doing is running around, putting out fires, trying to make sure everybody's happy. You're trying to make sure everybody's doing their job. And, Becky said this, and Becky said that about Bobby. And then we got to go see HR. Fuck HR. If you're a HR person, fuck you. I hate HR. Okay? Because they're the shit that I just wish we didn't have in business. But you got to have it. I'm not saying you can't have it. You got to have it. So, no, the first 2 or 3 years was probably fun, and then it's a fucking grind. Mm-hmm. Just to be perfectly honest with you, it's a grind. It's not fun. And I'm not saying it should be fun. I disagree with this. There's a general trope out there, a meme that people say, I think it's whatever, when you love what you do and you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Okay. In Disneyland, that sounds great, doesn't it? When you love what you do and you do what you love, it's great. But do you know how many people, Mike, really fucking do what they love to do? Not that many. Mm-hmm. Seriously. Mm-hmm. And the ones that do love what they do, typically you're not lucky enough to make a shit ton of money at doing that. Do you think the guy that has the concrete company down the road that sells concrete, do you think he fucking likes concrete, Mike? Right. Do you think he jerks off thinking about concrete and the right mix and the right trucks are going to go down the road? He don't give a fuck about concrete. But he recognized there's a business model there. He recognized there was money there. Most business owners that make a lot of money don't love what they do. They were just good at it. Mm-hmm. They figured out there was money at doing it. I'm not saying they all hate it, but they don't love it. You get what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. So are there a few people out there that get to love what they do every day and make bank on it? Yes, there is. But there's usually not one for everybody. It's very small.
Very small percentage.
It's very small. So you asked me, was it fun? No, for most of my career, it wasn't fucking fun. It's called a grind. It's called you're tired, you're exhausted. Just like every horse trainer's tired and exhausted. They went to dinner with 3 of their customers and listened to their dumb fucking stories and put up with their dumb shit, smiled and laughed, and they went to bed and said to their wife, fuck, it's a good thing this motherfucker buys expensive horses because I don't want to be around him. And next day he gets up and goes back to work again. Mm-hmm. You get what that's called the grind.
Yeah. For you though, did you have like a goal in mind, like a yearly goal that you were pursuing for the next year? Is that what you were grinding?
Yeah, make more money. Everything about me in those years was make more money. I had.
Was it? I get the money part, but were you trying to implement systems?
Yes.
In order to grow.
Very much so. Yes, I was always trying to implement systems, but the overwhelming goal was to make more money. That was one of my business mistakes. Is I always focused on the gross, not the net. And that's almost what made me go bankrupt 10 years ago, is I focused too much on the gross and not the net. You know, I didn't pay attention to the net part of it. Now I'm the opposite. I don't give a fuck what the gross is. I pay attention to what am I taking home? What am I keeping? But so money motivated me. If I made $3 million this year, next year I want to do 5. Next year I want to do 7. I just wanted to keep growing.
Which I've never understood that in business. People tell me how much they sold. I'm like, that's great. You sold that much. How much did you make?
Yeah, I didn't think about that, and shame on me, but it was a game to me to make more money. I loved growing, okay? But I loved the money part of it, but I hated the business part of it, meaning the employees and dealing with day-to-day and customers, and that wore me the fuck out. But, you know, and I did all the... you know, all the business culture and the fucking human pyramids you'd build and all the fucking off-site retreats and all this kind of shit. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Doing the team building thing?
Doing the team building shit, kumbaya and all that bullshit. You know, I did all that shit for years. And some of it was helpful and a lot of it was just fucking bullshit. It's do your fucking job or find a new fucking job. That's my philosophy now. Here's what I'm fucking paying you. Here's how I'm going to treat you. And I have a saying, we even up every Friday. Every Friday, I give you a paycheck, and we're even. You don't owe me, and I don't owe you. If you're working for free, I owe you now. Does that make sense? But you're not working for free. So we're even every Friday. Does that make sense? So you're either going to want to be here or you don't want to be here. So you can't make people be happy. I used to think if I created the right environment, every motherfucker's going to love their job. Every motherfucker's going to, you know, love what they do. I you know, this is an embarrassing story for me, but it's funny. So back in the days when I'm building these fucking human pyramids and we're all holding hands and having these off-site retreats and fucking Gandhi moments and shit and trying to build these teams, and one of my buddies, I'll never forget, his name's David McGee. So he has a dirt company, about 180 employees, does over 50 million a year. And I'm telling him about all these fucking human pyramids we're building and all this fucking group stuff. And I said, David, he still gives me shit about this. I said, David, my employees love me. We're like this one big happy fucking family. I take care of their kids and vacations and whatever they want, I give it to them, and they love me and we're just this one big happy family. And he just chuckles and he says, I'll never forget this. He says, no, Clinton, they fucking hate you. I said, what do you mean? He said, they actually fucking hate you. They just act like they like you because you're paying them a check. Oh, no, you don't understand, David. We've been doing this team building and we're this one big happy culture. And, you know, no, you're just old and bitter and you don't know the new age of business. And he said, no, Clinton, they fucking hate you. They just act like they like you. And I laughed it off and just thought he was full of shit. Well, about 6 months later, that's when I almost went bankrupt. Remember when I said I grossed $14 million and lost $375,000 the same year? Only year in business I ever lost money. And I was embarrassed that I grossed that much money and still lost money.
Say that again, though.
I grossed
$14
$14 million that year, but I lost $375,000. That was embarrassing for me. The only year I've ever lost money in business. And that was the year I almost got upside down. I got so big, had so many employees, wasn't paying attention to the money, had some embezzling going on. It was a clusterfuck. That's what it was. Well, when I get almost upside down, these fucking people that I thought loved me and we're just one big happy family, they ran off Titanic like fucking rats running away from the ocean. I mean, they quit their job. I had 2 accountants quit in the same fucking week. I mean, people are jumping off when word got out that I'm in a little trouble, you think family stuck by me? Fuck no. These motherfuckers jumped off Titanic. So then I called David up and I said, yeah, you're right, motherfucker. They did hate me, didn't they? And we still laugh about this today. You know what my attitude is now? I don't care if somebody who works for me hates me. They will they will respect me when I'm around them, and they'll at least make me think they like me. Whether they do or not, I don't care. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I don't need everybody to like me anymore. And that's a very freeing thing. When you can get to that point in your life where you just don't fucking care what people think about you, it's freeing. You don't stress about shit anymore. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. My girlfriend now, Lexi, people said some nasty shit about her when people found out we're together. And it upset her. And I said, baby, what do you think about this shit? Why do you let these people get under your skin? And I said, laugh at them. They're fucking idiots. They're not going to be there on your deathbed. You know who you care about people's opinion of you? The people that are going to be there around your deathbed. When you're on your last breath, pick who you think's going to be there and give a shit what they think about you.
Right.
Beyond that, don't give a shit about what anybody thinks about you. But those handful of people that are holding your hand and you're on life support, they're the motherfuckers that got your back. They're the people that if they say, hey, Clinton, you're doing this or you're doing that. I've got 4 or 5 people that I very much respect. And if they come to me and say, hey, do this or reel this in or don't do this. Or, I listen to them. I respect them. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So when you get to that point where you just don't give a shit, it's very liberating. Does that make sense at all?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I got a personal assistant. I got a 1950s wife that I don't fuck, and I love it, okay? I keep all my jobs separate now, okay? So I got this woman, her name's Bonnie, great woman. And she comes in at 7 o'clock, she cooks my breakfast, she does my laundry, she does all my errands, she's a personal assistant. I don't fuck with her, never seen her naked, she's never seen me naked. But guess what? Every joke I say is funny. Everything I want to do, she says, great idea. Anything I tell her to do, she says, yes, sir. She acts like she likes me and she's very respectful. But you know what the real truth is? She might hate my guts. Probably does. But guess what? I don't fucking care. I pay her really well. She has a job to do. She will act like she respects me. She will do her job well. She will be polite. But I don't need her to fucking like me. You know what I'm trying to say?
How did you find her?
Just through some friends. She's a hard-working Arkansas woman, salt of the earth. I like her a lot.
Yeah.
Now, she's with me 20 years from now. She'll be in my will. She's been with me probably 3 years now. I really like the woman.
But she respects you, but you respect her too.
I like her a lot.
Yeah.
I really do. But I don't care if she likes me.
Yeah.
I care that she does a job. So that's what David said. I just the employees need to respect me and at least make me think they like me in public. When I walk around the corner, they can say all nasty shit about me. I don't care. And there's something about when you quit giving a fuck what people think about you, your life will change tremendously.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm thinking about, as you say that, I'm thinking about my business and my employees, and it comes back to my intent. Like, what is my intent? I want to grow my company. I want to do these things. Therefore, I have this expectation. And if you're not meeting that, I'm going to say something.
Yes.
Right? And if you have a problem with that, we're probably not aligned. Fortunately, I have.
That's why I don't socialize with my employees. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't barbecue with them. That's why I don't hang out with them socially. I'm not friends with people that I give money to. There's a line in the fucking sand. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to step over it to you, and you don't step over it to me. Yeah. Now, I've fucked up in the past. I've fucked some employees and done some shit I shouldn't have done. But I don't do that anymore, because as soon as you start sleeping with somebody that works for you, that yes, sir, turns into fuck you. Like if I started sleeping with Bonnie, when I say, hey, Bonnie, I need bacon and eggs this morning. Get it your fucking self, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Where'd that fucking come from?
Yeah.
You know, when you start sleeping with a woman, there's a thing in the back of her throat called a fucking opinion. And that button gets hit and she starts giving you her opinion. When I'm paying you, I don't want your opinion. Guess why? Because if I want Bonnie's opinion, here's what I'm going to say to her. Bonnie, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think about that? And I do that sometimes. Mm-hmm. I say, I'm thinking about doing this. I need you to give me your advice. Should we do this or this? That's when I want your fucking opinion, when I ask for it.
Yeah.
If I start sleeping with her, she'll just start giving me her fucking opinion all the time, and I don't fucking want it. So I've made that mistake in the past.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So keep the line where the line is.
I don't have that level of an assistant, but
you don't need it.
But I have folks that clean my place, and it is much like
people hear that story and say, "You rich motherfucker, I don't have 52 grand to pay somebody." Here's what you do: if you're a man, okay, and you're on a mission, okay, you can find a retired lady to come in 2 days a week for $15-20 an hour. And say, in these 2 days a week, I need you to clean my house, do my laundry, do my errands, pick up my mail, clean the sheets on the bed, unload clean the horse trailer, whatever. You don't need a full-time assistant.
No, I agree.
As a man, we just suck at some of that stuff.
Well, no, I've gotten to the point, though, it's, again, going back to leveraging our time.
Our
that
time.
is the only resource
Yes.
that is not renewable, as far as I know.
Yes.
So, yeah, why am I going to do a $10 an hour job or $20 an hour job when I can pay somebody
You know
else
why I
to
suck?
do that?
I'm not a handyman's arsehole. I can't do anything like a handyman can. Do you know why? Because I don't want to. because I'm going to pay the plumber to be a plumber, and I'm going to pay the fucking electrician to be the electrician,
Right.
and I'm going to pay the roofing guy to be the roofing guy, because I can make more money training horses or teaching people than what I can do in that job. Because I could probably learn to do that job, but I'm going to suck at it. I'm going to probably fuck it up half a dozen times, and I'm not going to do a good job. I was never the jack of all trades. I hated, a lot of guys are jack of all trades, and I respect that. I'm not that. My deal is my time's worth this much per hour. If you're going to charge me $150 an hour and I can make $1,000 an hour, does it make sense for me to do the $150 an hour job?
Yeah.
The answer is no.
I struggle with that almost to a fault. I will try to outsource and leverage things. But then I had to have this realization. I got really good at the outsourcing and leveraging thing. It's like, well, goddamn, I kind of do want to bush hog my
If you
place
enjoy
today.
it, do it.
You know what I mean? Like, and so it took me a while to realize that, like, it's okay if you want to go cut down this tree and run a chainsaw. And like, for me, it's kind of meditative at times.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to have to do it, right? Like, I want to be able to choose, I'm going to do this manual labor. Not I have to do this because I have no other option.
There's only so many hours in the day, and with your own two hands to get rich. So everything you touch, ask yourself, can I make more money touching something else? I can make X amount of money teaching one lady. Or I can stand in front of 3,000 people and make a lot more money with the same hour. I'm still saying the same words, but now I'm teaching 3,000 people at a tour as opposed to one lady for $100.
Yeah.
So that's where the tours came in. That's where bigger public appearances came in. Does that make sense? Because I realized I could do a clinic with 10 ladies and make $5,000. Or I can do a tour and speak to 2,000 or 3,000 ladies and make $200,000.
Yeah, so I started thinking about my return on my time, return on my investment, all of those things. And you got to remember, this is like, I've been doing this real estate investing thing for over 15 years now. Well, I'm at a point now where it's like, what's my return on my experience?
Yeah.
Right? And so whatever it may be, I'm going to just use running a chainsaw. The thoughts that come to me in those moments, I don't know that I could get anywhere else, right? Because nobody's around me. My phone's not ringing. I'm with my thoughts, and I'm big on intentions. I'll set an intention, and I treat it almost like a meditation.
Most of my best business ideas came driving down the road. When I'm driving a truck and trailer somewhere, that's when I start really doing good with business because I've got nothing to do, nobody to talk to, and that's when I start thinking about shit.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is something will pop into my head. I'll do a voicemail. I'll send it to an employee. Say, hey, I want you to do this, this, and this. That's when I get real visionary, is when I'm driving down the road.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like your subconscious is brought to life.
I
right?
think because you're not doing something, especially when you're training a horse. I'm not one of those guys that can train a horse and give 3 other people lessons at the same time. I'm horrible at that. I got to train the horse and think about what I'm doing and concentrate. There are some guys out there, and I envy them, that they can be training a horse and giving a lesson to that lady and telling that lady to put their left foot on and, back that one up, and they're still fucking walking a couch. Like, how the fuck do you think of 5 things at once? I'm not that guy.
Here's one thing I've noticed, and I'm sure you're the same way. I've never been in an arena with you, but like if I'm at Jesse Lennox's place or James Payne's place, they're so in tune with their horses. Not only the horse they're riding, not only the horses in the arena. There can be somebody leading a horse from the barn way the fuck away, and they're noticing, oh, this is a stud, and they're having their way with this person leading the horse. It just going back to just the language of horsemanship and being in tune with everything that's going on at their place.
I think some people just got a natural gift for it. Andrea Fapani has that. You can be at his place. It pisses me off, but I'll go ride with him 4 or 5 times a year. And we can pass each other fencing. So he's coming this way, and I'm going this way. So when I get past him, I know I'm behind his back. And I might stop a horse, and it may not stop very good. And he'll yell out, you didn't do this and this. I'm like, hey, motherfucker, how did you see that?
How do you see
He's
that?
just got eyes in the back of his head. There are some people, I think, that have just got a gift for being very... Alison Armstrong calls it diffuse awareness. Like, women have this typically much better than men. Like, women that I've dated in the past, a lot of them, you can walk into a restaurant, and my second wife was real big on this. Like, we would sit down at a restaurant. We'd sit down and pay attention to this as men. When you go to a restaurant, I didn't realize I did this until Alison Armstrong pointed it out. She said when men get to a table, we will sit down and we'll grab everything and move it around. We'll grab the napkin, we'll grab the fork and knife, we'll move the wine glass. We do this little arrangement. And then we're like, oh, so how was your day? And I didn't realize we do it. And once she said it and I listened to it, I said, I'm going to pay attention to that. I fucking do it like clockwork. And most men do. We have no idea we're even doing it because when we transition to another environment, we set the environment and then we're ready for the conversation. We pay attention to one thing at a time. Like men, we hunt the deer and shoot the fucking deer. You can't shoot the deer and paint your nails at the same time.
Yeah.
You get what we're single focused creatures. Women as a nature are diffuse awareness. So they're aware of everything. So I could literally sit down with my ex-wife at a table. Literally within 30 seconds, she'll say, that lady over your left shoulder's having an argument with her husband. The lady to my right, over her right shoulder, is pissed about this. This guy over here is trying to come onto that woman. He wants to fuck her. I'm like, where the fuck does this come from, bitch? We just sat down. Yeah. She was extreme about it though, and even the girl I'm with now, Lexi, she can hear conversations on the other side of the room. I have no idea anybody's in the restaurant. Right. I'm so single focused, like I'm so bad. I'll drive down the road and there'll be a building, and I'll look over and say, fuck, did they just put that building up? And my buddy Tom will say, Clinton, it's been here for 10 fucking years. I'm really bad. I'm the opposite of that. I have no idea. There could be bombs going off around us in a restaurant. I am completely oblivious to it. But so men are very single focused as a general rule. Women are much more diffuse awareness. That's why women can concentrate on 15 fucking things at once. Yeah. They can hold the baby, clean the thing, cook the meal, they're naturally wired that way. Where we're wired to hunt. We're wired to track the dinosaur, kill the fucking dinosaur, drag the son of a bitch back, feed the family, fuck the girl, and go to sleep. You get what we're wired like that. Does that make sense? Women are very much more aware of their surroundings. They're aware of tone. That's why when you can have a conversation with a woman and she'll walk away and your girlfriend or wife will say to you, that fucking bitch, did you see what she did? And a man will be like, what? The way she looked at me. What? She was laughing. She was friendly. You should have seen her left fucking eyebrow. It squinted just a little bit. She was telling me to fuck you and she wants to fuck you. They got a pussy radar on them. What can I say? They just got this pussy radar on them, but they can just read shit that as men, we're just completely oblivious. Yeah. Especially a woman with tits, we completely lose our shit. We just completely can't think at all. Okay, but I love it. Like if ever I'm serious about a woman, I just introduce her to my family, or what I call my family, Tom and Melissa Sims, brother and sister. They're American, but I call them my family. I just introduce them to Melissa, and I said, Melissa, what's your pussy radar say about this girl? They just got a good pussy radar on them. I never doubt their pussy radar either. It is 100% fucking accurate. We are horrible as men at reading women. How'd we get on that topic, motherfucker?
I don't know.
Half your listeners just unsubscribed right then.
I'm reading a book right now for the second time by Gary Keller wrote it called The One Thing. Mm-hmm. Have you read that before?
No.
And it's a good read, especially for me right now, because I feel like I'm struggling to prioritize certain things, right? Mm-hmm. And he says, just as humans, not men, women, pussy radar, none of that. You should write a book though. You should write
I don't know if anybody should buy it,
but
it's probably not going to be on the women's top 10 list.
As ambitious as we think we are, like we can only focus on one thing at a time, right? And so it's like what I think the quote is, what can I do such that by doing this, it makes everything else easier, right? And so you can do that for me, real estate, for you as a clinician, personal life, whatever it may be. And so working through that right now, it's like, first of all, realizing or having the awareness that I can only focus on one thing has been a big deal and very helpful, I guess, to be able to write that down. That's my focus. And it is. It's like you take this step, and this step just kind of falls into place.
Yeah. For me, I know I can't teach and train a horse at the same time. So if I have to give somebody a lesson, and I don't do it very much anymore, I have to sit on the fence and give them my 100% of my attention. And I know that. So I don't try to teach somebody as I'm training a horse because it just pisses me off. I don't have the gift that maybe Jesse has or Andrea where they can train their own horse and give 5 other tips to 6 people around them. So I
Very
recognize
few people can.
I
though.
recognize my weakness and I
Yeah.
just embrace it and say, so
Yeah.
right, if I'm going to help you with your horse, I'll be done at 4:00. I'm going to get in this chair and you've got 100% of my attention. But I'm kind of like that in life. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to give 100%, or I'm not going to fuck with it. I'm not going to mess with it. So I'm either all in or I'm all out. So I know I'm not a good teacher and trying to train my own horse, so I don't try to anymore. You know, it's not bad to recognize your weaknesses, recognize them, embrace them, and find workarounds.
Right. So I'm sitting here. I'm trying. I want.
You don't know where the fuck to go with me
No,
now.
I do. Well, I don't. I do and I don't because I have so many avenues I want to go and get to in a short amount of time. So I'll go here first, though. So $6-7 million ish in debt. Mm-hmm. I don't know what year that would have been. How do you climb out of that?
You don't have a fucking choice. That was probably the hardest years. Is when I got in debt for that much money, 6-7 million, it was about 6 million, I think. And I was burnt the fuck out. I'd been doing this for 20 years. I was exhausted. I was mentally tired. I was essentially repeating the same information weekend after weekend after weekend. Even though there were new people, you got to pretend it's like the first time you've ever said it. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So
What year would this have been?
Oh, fuck, what year is it now? So it's 2024. So it would have been 5 years, probably 6 years before I retired. So I retired in 4 years ago. So then take back 5 years from then. You know what I mean? 6 years from then. I wanted to quit. I'm not going to lie. I could be some counterfeit motherfucker and be motivation. I never had a bad day in my life. Fuck yeah, I did. And I got to drinking too much. I almost blew my brains out once. I'll be honest. I got in a bad place one time. I got so fucking depressed and so sick of fucking teaching clinics and teaching people and bitching customers and bitching employees and I was exhausted mentally, physically. I got in a bad place one time. And honestly, I wanted to quit, but I remember my mother said, life is tough. You can't be a quitter. I didn't want to be a quitter to my parents. I didn't want to be a quitter to myself. If I would have thrown in the towel then, I would have for sure gone bankrupt and I would have had nothing. So I would have spent 20 years for nothing. And I just said, fuck it, I got to crawl out of this hole. So from that moment on, it was not about growing. It was about saving more, investing more, looking for the end strategy. Does that make sense?
It does. How does one get into that much debt though?
Oh, you're just growing like the fucking ranch, employees. Back in these days, you got to remember, before everything was streamed, I might have had $3 million of DVDs in that warehouse. I'm buying kits from China. These kits I'm selling for $600. I've got $100 in this kit. But I got to order 2,000 or 3,000 of these kits to get them for $100. So I might have $3 million in inventory just sitting in a warehouse. Right. Now everything's on the app. So a lady in Germany can give me her credit card, sign up to be a club member. I've got her money. She's got my materials. So now nothing's shipped out as far as DVDs. Everything's streaming. So now how I make money now is the No Worries Club. So, I've got roughly 10,000 members that are in the club, okay? They pay me $40 a month to be a part of the club. So a lady in Germany now can get on my app, sign up, pay me $40, and it'll hit a bank card every month, and she gets access to everything. So I don't have to ship her any separate DVDs anymore. So that got rid of $3 million of inventory. But in that inventory, especially in Texas, you got to pay taxes on that. At the end of the year, whatever you've got sitting in your warehouse, you get taxed on. You get what I'm saying? So you might say, well, just buy 500 kits from China. Well, then now the kits might be 400.
Right.
I got to get them at $100 a kit. I got to buy 2,000 or 3,000 of them, and I've got 8 titles. Does that make sense? 8 different sets of kits. So that's part of it too. It's not just the real estate; it's the actual investment. So me going to streaming was a big deal to me. I got rid of all that inventory. So now a lady in Germany at 1:00 in the morning can sign up for my club, sign up for my teaching. I can have her money in my bank account. There's no customs, there's no duties, there's no lost mail. Now, sure, we still have to mail out saddles and halters and lead ropes. There are still things you have to mail, but the vast majority of my money comes from information. Remember, I sell information. I sell people information that's going to help them be a better horseman.
Right.
Not a specialist. I don't tell people how to be a cutting horse trainer or a reining horse trainer. I'm like your general doctor.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you get specialize into your, your brain doctor, your knee doctor, your foot doctor. I don't do that. I'm a general horsemanship guy. I'm teaching people with very little horsemanship skills how to be a proficient, decent horseman, to start their own colt, train their own horse. Once they get to that level, they'll find, if they want to be in cutting, they'll find a Jesse. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They'll find, reining, they'll find Andrea. They'll find that other path. My average customer stays with me 3 years. We've done a lot of statistics on this. From when they come to see me, they will stay 3 years, and then they will leave. And we've done thousands of exit interviews with my customers, and most of them leave not because they're unhappy, but they say, well, Clinton, I've learned what I've learned. I've enjoyed it. You've got me to be a better horseman. Now I want to either specialize in some part of the horse industry, or my horse is no longer bucking me off and jigging on the trail, so I'm a happy trail rider. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. I get fired. My greatest compliment is I get fired by doing a good job. Right. But I don't take that as a slight. My job is to make sure people are not dependent on me.
Yeah.
My job is to get you good enough to where you don't need me anymore. I don't take that as a bad thing. It's a badge of honor that you don't become dependent on me.
Right.
Do you get what I'm trying to say there?
100%. So you said something a minute ago, and I don't want it to just to float by, because I think some folks listening will want me to circle back to this. Blowing your brains out, depressed. Mm-hmm. How close did you come, and what was it that, how did you divert that as an option?
Probably the shame of my parents. Probably disappointing them. If I would have committed suicide, it would have upset my mother. Just to be real with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was so fucking done with employees, and this is when I'm going broke. This is when I'm going bankrupt. Like, I'm upside down. You get what I'm saying?
40 employees. You got three tour buses going.
I got 4 semis going down the road to tours. I got 40 employees.
The big place in Stephenville.
Big place in Stephenville. I'm rocking and rolling publicly, but privately it's a fucking disaster. You know what I mean? So probably the disappointment of my parents, the disappointment in myself, who it would hurt. You know what I mean? If we're being real with each other, probably those things is what pulled me through it. And that's when I just decided enough's enough. You know what I mean? More money doesn't mean more happiness. I think that the day that really changed for me is I woke up one day, and it's kind of gay as fuck, but it scared me. But I woke up one day and said, I don't want to make more money. I don't want to get bigger. I don't want to grow. And you got to remember, Mike, that was such a strange phenomena for me for 20 years. Got to get bigger, got to grow, got to get more employees, got to be the biggest, got to be the best. And for me to wake up one day and say, I've had enough. This will sound gay as fuck, but I'll say it, okay? Do you remember on the Forrest Gump movie when he's running? Do you remember Forrest Gump?
Oh, yeah.
And he's running down the road, and then he just stops. And he turns around and says, I'm tired. I think I want to go home. As stupid and as pussy as that sounds, that's where I was at. I just woke up and said, I'm fucking tired. I'm exhausted. I don't want to do this anymore. There's no more happiness there. I bought every truck and trailer. I bought every fucking clapper bit. I bought every horse. You get what I'm saying? I bought everything I could to make me feel happy. Yeah. Yeah. So the old saying, money doesn't buy happiness, poor people say, bullshit, let me have a whack at it. I'm telling you, it's fucking true. Money does not buy you happiness. And I was so upset that I felt like I lost my edge or lost who I was as a man. I went and saw Ken Bray, he's the owner of Echobrand. He's a close friend of mine and a big mentor. And I went and met with him for lunch, and I said, I don't want to make more money anymore. I don't want to get bigger. I said, what's wrong with me? And Ken's real quiet. He's the opposite of me. And he just looked at me and he said, Clinton, it's okay. You've ran your race. You've made your money. Let's start turning the ship around. Mm-hmm. Start living what you want to do. Get back to riding horses. Get back to being a horse trainer. Get back to showing. Get back to what you want to do. And it's stupid, but he almost needed to give me permission to not quit, but back off. It was kind of like I was in a chariot and I was the horse and somebody was behind me just whipping me. run. And finally I had to look back and it's like, God damn, I'm the one motherfucking whipping me. I'm the one whipping myself.
Yeah.
And I had to have another grown man almost give me permission. It's okay not to want more. So then I just repurposed my whole life, and it's about happiness now. It's about what will make me happy, what gives me enjoyment. Does that make sense?
It
So
does,
then
dude.
I just planned the next 5 years to get everything sold, get everything invested. That's why I went to Arkansas, because I invested in a bunch of real estate out there, rental home properties, commercial properties. And I put all my money in real estate. And I came up with a number that, okay, I can live well on this. I planned, if I down under disappeared and I never made a living for the rest of my life and I just had to live off my investments forever, how much is it? I made the number in my head. I was happy with it. And I'm good with it. See, I could do 10 more tours a year. Like I just did a tour in St. Louis. I had 1,600 people show up. We did $200,000 in sales in 2 days. I could do... Now, this is nothing. Back in when I was big, when I was the most popular, I was getting 3,500 people at a tour. It was big. It's 1,600 now. You know what I mean? So anywhere between 1,000 and 1,600. But I'm also the only one touring anymore. John Lyons doesn't tour, Pirelli doesn't tour, Chris Cox doesn't. Nobody else tours because they can't draw more than 200 people to show up to their event. I can at least get anywhere from 1,000 to 1,600. But back when it was big and I had 4 semis, I'd get 3,000, 3,500 people showing up. But the expenses eat you alive. You know what I mean? You're flying in 40 employees for that.
ratio of...
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you right now, that St. Louis tour, sure, I sold $200,000 worth of product, Mike. I broke even. I didn't make any money. You might say, well, why did I do it? Because I do it because it's good for the sponsors. And I do it now because I want to do it. I only do 3 a year now. I do 3 public events a year, and that is it. I'm there because I want to be there, not because I have to be there. That changes the game a lot. Does that make sense? I don't do 4. Now, if I do 10 or 15, I could double my income again, but I'd go back to drinking again. I'd go back to eating bad. I'd go back to making bad pussy decisions. You get what I'm saying? Like when me and Captain Morgan get together, we fuck some shit up. It's just not good for us to meet too much. You know what I mean? So I could make a lot more money, but my quality, my lifestyle would fall apart.
Right.
So yeah, I can't go buy a fucking, G6 jet, but I can sure do everything I want to do in my life.
Right.
And there's a little bit of peace about that. Does that make sense? It's like what level of income do you want to be at? What can you do? And stay in that parameter. And I'm real happy with that the parameter it is. More money will not give me more happiness right now.
Right.
Do you understand?
Well, I do because, and society has led us to believe that more is more. Push, grind, all of these things. And yeah, I think there is something to that. It's more like in the pursuit and and to have a clear intention, like clear vision of what it is that you want. Because most people, they just think, because society has taught us to think more is more. And if I can get to this thing, if I can check this box, if I can make this million, then I'll be happy.
Yes.
And that's false.
It doesn't work.
It's
No, it doesn't
it's just
work.
false, right? And so I think just getting very clear on what it is, I think it's a lack of awareness, which would be ignorance. And that's not a knock on anybody. That's just people think that will make them happy, but they truly just don't know.
I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with hitting the grind, and I don't,
No, it's in the process, though. It's like
Yeah.
like musicians. You look at musicians; they do what they do because they love it. You did what you did because you love training horses, and the money you found this.
I'm even going to
to
go one step further. I did what I did in my business because I love making money. I'm not ashamed of that. Like most clinicians will get on here and say, like, this is one of Ray Hunt's famous sayings, which I think is complete fucking bullshit. I'm going to get assassinated for saying this, but fuck it. Ray Hunt's famous saying was, he'd show up at a clinic and he'd say, I'm not here for you, I'm here for the horse. Bullshit, motherfucker. You're here for the money. If you were here for the horse, the clinic would be free. That's that whole natural horsemanship trope out there. I'm not here for you. I'm here for the horse to make the horse's world better. That's just jerked me off.
Did he have an
bullshit.
Australian accent?
No, it's just all bullshit. It's just all bullshit. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm here because I make a living doing this.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
Tell me this: what's the most you made in 1 year with Downunder Horsemanship?
Net or gross?
Net.
Oh,
I told you I don't care about the gross anymore.
probably $3 million after taxes was the most I ever made. After taxes, after all expenses, everything. That was probably the most.
And you spent it on what?
Captain Morgan and pussy. Just bad decisions. Okay, just bad decisions. But, you know, I had too many staff. That's where I pissed away a lot of money. I had too much staff. When I was in this human pyramid fucking scale of my life where I'm thinking employees are everything and, you know, my job was I got to make sure my employees have the best tools, the best computers, the best everything to do the best job. I had 3 people doing one person's job because I learnt that the hard way. When I almost went bankrupt and basically 2/3 of my company quit me within about 30 days, okay? I'm thinking, okay, this ceiling's about to fall in. 2/3 of my staff walked out the door. Guess what? Everything fucking worked. Everything functioned. Everything done perfectly well. Does that make sense? That told me I had way too many. I learned some really good business advice from my buddy David. And he's the guy that has a big dirt construction company, 180 employees. And he said to me one time, he said, Clinton, he said, here's a little trick. Try this. When an employee walks up to you and says, hey, I'm exhausted, I need help, I'm falling behind. He says, your first answer is, you got this. I know you got this. You're going to get it. I believe in you. Knuckle down. You're going to get through this. You're good to go. He said that's always your first response. Always. Me, when I heard that, well, fuck, I better get you an assistant. If you're struggling, you're falling behind, I got to get you an assistant. I got to get you help. That's where I got into trouble. He said, your first answer is always say, no, you got this. I believe in you. You got this. He said, then 3 or 4 months later, if that same employee comes back to you and their eyes are hanging out of their fucking head and they're exhausted and they're working 120 hours a week and they say, boss, I'm struggling. I can't keep up. I got to get some help. I don't know what to do. He said, then you take them fucking seriously. Then when they come back 3 months later, you get them some help. So when he told me that, one of my head editors came to me the next day. He said, Clinton, I'm swamped. I got to have an assistant. I got to have somebody else help me edit. And his name was Grant. I never forget this. And I thought, I'll try this out. I said, Grant, you got this, motherfucker. I believe in you. You're a professional. You know what you're doing. You got this. Yeah, it'll be a little tough for 2 or 3 weeks, but you're going to pull through this. I believe in you. Grant just said, okay. And he walked off. And he walked off. And guess what happened? He got it all done. He never came back to me again. But I would have caved and said, well, you probably need an assistant.
Right.
Does that make sense? Your first response, he said to me, people hate this, but fuck it, I'll say it. He said, and I truly do believe this, when all your employees are bitching that they're overworked, they're right where you want them. Because they're not overworked, they're just giving you what you're paying them. When they're not bitching that they're overworked, they're fucking you. Do you get what I'm just saying then?
Yeah.
When they're all bitching that they're overworked, you're right where you need to be. When they're not bitching at all, because employees love to bitch about anything and everything. If something's not going their way, something's not right, they'll bitch about it immediately. So he said, when they're all grumbling just a little bit, right where you need to be. When they're not grumbling, they're giving you 6 hours rather than 8.
Right.
I truly believe it. They don't teach you this shit in Harvard. They don't teach you this in business school. You got to kind of figure this out in the streets. But he's absolutely fucking right.
Yeah, and as you, the more you leverage your business, you're removed from it. So you don't know, does Grant need an assistant? I don't know.
My biggest Achilles heel is, I know it sounds stupid, but do you ever see that movie Straight Outta Compton?
I have not.
Okay, it's a rap video, video of some black guys that made a movie, and they cut to the chase. The manager fucked him out of a bunch of money. These guys are out rapping and doing this touring. So they're making tons of money, but they're not paying attention to the money at home. So the manager steals from them and basically bankrupts them. That was always my Achilles heel, is when I got divorced from my first wife, I was married to her for 9.5 years. We were a horrible marriage, but I'll give her credit for this. She had my back with the money. She was in it with me. We started from nothing. And
she was with you in that mobile home?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, she was in it with me. So I would be out there on the road making money and doing what I do, and she'd be at home collecting the money, managing the money, taking care of it, like making sure it wasn't getting stealed. So in a perfect world, you've got a husband and wife that stand back to back. So I protect the wolves from this 180-degree plane. She's on my back, and she protects the 180 plane behind me. Does that make sense? When I divorced her, one of the negatives to that is I never had another woman in my life again that was involved in the business and the money part of it. So because of that, I always had to hire CFOs and accountants and other people to help me manage the money side of it. And this is one thing that I'll openly admit. I was way too trusting of people handling my money, and I'm the complete opposite of that now, okay? I always tell people this with money. I don't care what fucking business you're into, pay attention to this. Sign your own checks, check your own bank credit card statements, and check your money. And if other people, bookkeepers and other people are doing it for you, make sure they know you're looking. I live by this rule now, and if I would have lived by this 15 years ago, I'd be twice as rich, okay? Employees will do what you inspect, not expect. I'm going to say that one more time. Employees will do what you inspect, not expect. Now, 1 out of 10 employees is golden. I mean, you could die tomorrow and that bitch will still do her job. Does that make sense? She is that loyal to the company. But that's about 1 out of 10.
Right.
The other 9, do you know what they'll do? They'll do your job as long as they know your foot is an inch away from their ass. When they know you're watching, when they know, like a trick that David taught me is he said on time cards, he said, I've got so many employees I can't check every hours and every time cards. But he said, I'll just randomly call up people every month and say, hey, Frank, tell me about this expense on your credit card. It was $18 here. What was that for? He said, I don't know what it's about. But he said, I just want them to know I'm checking.
Yeah.
I just want him, when I get off the phone, he's going to say, well, David, I took that customer to Whataburger and I got him a burger. Okay, right, I was just wondering what it was. He said, when you hang up the phone, that employee is going to say, this motherfucker's actually checking the credit card statements.
Yeah.
Even if you're not, you better make them believe you are. Yeah. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned with money and employees, and you'd be shocked how many fucking accountants will steal from you. Accountants, bookkeepers, people that you think are professionals that are handling your money, you'll be shocked how many people get embezzled from those people, from the people that should be protecting your money, okay? When I was going bankrupt, I remember I started going through the credit card statements because I'm trying to cut expenses. I'm upside down and I'm fucking panicking. So I'm checking every credit card statement. I'm checking everything, signing my own checks. And I never forget this. I see this credit card bill on his credit card. Because remember, I've probably got 7 or 8 credit cards around the company. The tour driver, the truck driver's got the credit card. The tour manager's got the credit card. You know, I have 7 or 8 credit cards out there. So I noticed this $250 fucking XM radio credit charge to a credit card. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I didn't authorize this. So I call in the warehouse manager and the truck driver, because this is when I'm doing 20 tours a year. I've got a full-time truck driver, drives the truck, and full-time. So him and the manager come in. And I said to both of them, I said, what's this $250 XM radio fucking charge on my credit card here? And the truck driver says, oh, that's XM radio. I just bought it for the truck. You know, when I'm going down the road, I want to be able to listen to XM radio. I said, this is not fucking okay that you just spend $250 of my dollars of my money on your entertainment. You know what this motherfucker said to me? I'll never forget this. He looked me square in the eyes and he said, well, Clinton, it's only $13 a month. What do you give a fuck about? It's $13 a month. And this is one of those times in life where you have those one-liners that are just perfect, that everything lines up. I looked at him and I said, great. If it's only $13 a month, you won't have a problem paying it, will you? Guess what he did? He unsubscribed to that XM in 2 days. He had to pay a $50 penalty fee, but he unsubscribed. When it was his $13, he gave a fuck, didn't he? Yeah. But when it was my fucking $13, he was indignant about it. He was arrogant about it. Like he threw it back in my face like, you cheap motherfucker, it's $13 a month. When I said, great, you won't have a trouble paying for it, will you? He backed up quick. That taught me a lot about humans' nature. Mm-hmm. I don't give a fuck who you have handling your money. Nobody cares about it like you do. Uh-huh. So anybody that touches your money, make sure you're checking them. Make sure they're double checked. Make sure you're having an outside audit done every 2 or 3 years. Make sure they know you're looking up their skirt. That was my biggest regret in business, is I was too lax with the money. Mm-hmm. I did great and I retired and I'm fine. But I could have had triple the amount of money I had if now I sign every check every week. I check every credit card statement. I check every bank statement. I know where every penny is at every point of my business model. Where before I thought, well, if you're paying a CFO $140,000 a year, surely he's a professional. He's going to be helping me manage my money. Fuck no.
Right.
People don't care about your money like you do.
Yeah. It makes me question like the Jeff Bezos of the world, the Steve Jobs, like how they grow a business that big and grandiose. Because I've gotten jaded towards people and workers.
Oh, you do?
Throughout the years, which is not a great
No,
thing to
I'm
do,
not proud. I used to have this magnet on my fridge. I'll say it, fuck it. I used to have this magnet on my fridge that says, I used to be a people person, but people fucked that up for me. Okay? that was a magnet on my fridge. I'm a lot better now. I'm kind of got over my hatred now and bitterness now towards employees because I've got 8 employees now. Here's what's shocking now. I've only got 8 employees now, and I almost net what I did when I was really kicking ass.
Isn't that interesting?
I went from 40 to 8. I cut so much fat out.
Yeah.
It's shocking. It's shocking. So now I don't give a fuck about 14 million anymore. I give a fuck about what you're keeping.
It's the net. Yeah.
Bigger is not better. Squeeze. My problem is the analogy of money in business, you'd have a sponge, okay, like the old-fashioned sponge you'd sponge your car down with. You have a sponge, and you just half squeeze it, and a bunch of water comes out. And then I'd say, oh, fuck it, we got to get a bigger sponge. I just throw that sponge away and get a bigger one. Now my attitude is, no, we can squeeze this motherfucker some more. There's some more water come out of the sponge. And then when we think we're dry, let's just squeeze this son of a bitch a little bit more. And when that sponge is bone dry, now let's talk about throwing it away and getting a bigger sponge.
Right.
That's my lesson. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. When we've squeezed every drop of profit out of this part of this business, then we'll look about getting an extra employee. But if we haven't squeezed it, we're just wasting.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I agree. Along those same lines, you have another quote. There's a price to be paid for success. And so that price could come in a monetary version. That price could come in lessons learned along the way.
Oh, yeah.
If you had any advice for someone starting out, whether they're a horse trainer, clinician, or just anybody in business, what advice would that be that could potentially save someone years or hundreds of thousands of dollars of their own money being spent?
I don't know if I have an answer, but maybe when I get done telling this, you'll come up with your own answer. So when I started doing clinics, I would fly to everywhere. And I would get free information from people on flights. So if I'd sit beside somebody, I'd look at, you can usually tell, when I say usually, when people's shoes, belt, and what they're wearing, you can tell their wealth pretty quickly, their watch, etc. You get what I'm saying? So anytime I sat beside somebody that looked like they had some coin, I'd say, hey, what's your name, Frank? Hey, Frank, where you from? What do you do? I'm a criminal defense attorney. Fucking brilliant. So I just milk them. I'm on this plane for 2.5 hours anyway, so I just milk this motherfucker for all the free information I could get out of him on every industry I could think of. Because I'd sit beside him, so I might as well talk to him, and most people like to talk about themselves, so they'll tell you shit, okay? I sat beside a guy, very wealthy one time, that told me this, and I never forgot it. I said to him, what's the trick to being a really successful businessman? And he thought about it for a second, and he said to me this. He said, the trick is, you've got to run so hard and so fast and focus so much that right before you fall off the fucking cliff, you pull back, you stop the car, and you save yourself. And I said, well, I don't understand what that means. What does that mean by fall off the cliff? He says, your marriage, you're divorced, your kids don't know you, you've worked so much, your kids are teenagers and you've missed birthday parties, recitals, you don't know who they are. He said, most of the time most really driven people in business, we just have our fucking foot flat on the gas pedal. Does that make sense? There's no governor. So we just head out in a straight line. And I said, well, how the hell do you know where the cliff is? Like, what tells you the cliff is there? I never forget this. He just smiled, he looked at me and he said, unfortunately, you kind of have to fucking go off it. And you crash, and when you get back to the top of the cliff and you get back in another car, you're like, oh, there's a fucking cliff over there. And he said, you typically, if you notice most really wealthy people in the world, most wealthy people have gone bankrupt once or twice. That's not uncommon. But they blow it, they regather, and they make it again. They might blow it again, but they typically don't blow it a third time.
Right.
Because we don't have a governor. So what happens is when you really want to be successful in business and make a lot of money, you have to work extreme hours. This is not 8 to 5. This is extreme hours. It's up to 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night working. You're up at 5 o'clock. And who suffers is your family. Wives suffer, kids suffer, family members suffer. That's who typically suffer when you're that much of a workaholic. So that's why, how many really wealthy people can you name that are still married to their first wife? All jokes aside. My 2 wives that, and I divorced both of them, but in reality is, they didn't want to be married to a man they never saw. I'm going to stick up for them now. I was never around. I was working constantly. That's why I never had kids, because I knew I'd pick my career. I knew I'd work. So there is a price to be paid for success. So yeah, I got to retire at 43, but I have no children. I'm not married. You know, some people will say that's a shame, or you fucked up in life, or whatever. They can have that saying. I don't think I did. But there is a price to be paid. I've been through 2 divorces, you know, lost a bunch of money in those first divorces, especially not the second divorce. But my point is, you can't get to number 1 playing it safe. Does that make sense? Like Andrea Fapani, he's won $8 million in reining. He's at the barn at 5 a.m. He'll leave at 6, 7. When it's cold, when it's hot and everybody else is quitting, he's out there riding. He's an animal. He'll do it 6 days a week, sometimes 7. He's an animal. Does that make sense?
It does, and because I had an interview with Luca, his son, that validates everything.
He's an animal.
He's like, there are no days off for Andre.
No. I'm
7 days a week.
I'm ashamed to say this, but for many years, I didn't know what public holidays was. I didn't know what Labor Day was. Fuck, I worked Christmas Day most years. Easter. I didn't know what public holidays were. I was ashamed of that because I didn't do, like people for years would ask me, what's your hobbies? Motherfucker, I don't have time for a hobby. Hobbies are for people that have got spare fucking time. I'm trying to build a business.
Yeah.
I'm trying to rule the world. I'm trying to get retired by 40. There is no hobbies.
Right.
Now I got hobbies. You get what I'm saying? Now I've got spare time. But there is a price to be paid for success. I remember reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography. And right when he was ready to go to his last Mr. Olympia, I don't remember what year it was, he won it. But the last Mr. Olympia, his dad died like 2 or 3 weeks right before the Olympia. He did not go to his father's funeral in Germany because he said it would interfere with his training. It would interfere with his diet. He was getting so dialed in for the Mr. Olympia contest. He said, if I would have taken off a week to go to my dad's funeral, I would have lost. So when I say that story, half the audience say, well, maybe 2/3 say, what a piece of shit. You missed your father's funeral. You're an arsehole. You're a piece of shit. 1/3 of the audience listening say, no, he wanted to be a winner. He knew what it took to be a winner, and he was going to fucking run over anybody that got in his way.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right,
That's
yeah.
pretty serious when you miss one of your parents' funerals. But he wanted to be number 1. He knew if he went, he would have fucked up his diet, his reps. He would not have won it. You've got to be so self-centered. Actually, that's what you are. You're an arsehole. You're self-centered. Everything revolves around you. When you want to win that bad, your family suffer. Your kids, your wives, and that's why most really wealthy people have been married at least twice. Very few really wealthy people can you name that are still in their first marriage. Think about that for just a second.
Well, yeah, you're right, because the kids get to reap the benefits of that, but they do miss out on that portion of time,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
That you're spent doing that thing and honing your craft and becoming the best
Yes.
at that thing.
It's not, you can't have, all these fucking kids now.
Unless you, sorry to interrupt, but unless you just find that ultimate mate and you're a power couple and you're just aligned from the get-go, and
You better have a woman at home that knows when you're on a mission, she better be really to be on that mission with you.
Right.
And everybody wants to be married to a high, powerful man, but they're not ready for him to work 14, 16 hours a day because that's what he's going to have to do. Does that make
Especially
sense?
in the early days.
So
and maybe that's why the second marriage works, because they've already spent the time doing the thing.
oh, yeah.
And now they can reap the benefits and they get to pull back.
Now I have some balance now.
Yeah.
Okay, now I get to the barn at 8 a.m., I leave by 5 p.m. I have some balance now. Now I have to fight that urge to be there longer than that.
Right.
But I have to say to myself, I don't want to get burnt out again. I want
Yeah.
to enjoy this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Enjoying it is more important to me than winning. I
Mm-hmm.
want to win and I want to do well, but it's not more important to me than the relationships around me.
Well, I think it's important, and it's I learned this in watching other interviews with you. You acknowledge the fact, I'm not going to win the futurity, and I'm okay with that.
Yes.
I show up from this time to this time, and I have fun training 7 to 10 horses.
Yes.
And that's what I'm here for now. And so that was one of my questions for you. Was
I had to make peace with that.
I bet
I had to
yeah.
make peace with that because I knew that if I turned back into the animal I was with Downunder Horsemanship, I would have been much more successful at this, but there's going to be another price to be paid.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? There's going to be more relationships that go in the trash can. There's going to be more mental space that goes in the trash cans. I'm going to turn back into that animal again. I don't want to go there again. Like Andrea helped me one time. I was out there about 2 years ago, and I got out of the bus at 8 o'clock and went and got my horse and ride around. He'd been at the barn since 5, and I said, "Can I ask you something, just real personal, man to man?" And he didn't give me permission to say this, but I don't think he'll be upset about it. And I said, "I'd like to ask you a personal question, man to man." I said to him, when I get out here and I ride around you, I feel guilty again. And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I used to be you. I was an animal. I was up at 5, working 12 hours a day, 14 hours. I was you. And when I get out here and I start work at 8 and I quit at 4 or 5, I feel like a bum. I feel lazy. I feel like I'm cheating life and I'm cheating me." And I said, "Do you think that's okay? Like, do you think I'm making the wrong decision? Do you think I should have another run at this at 47 or 46 I would have been? Do you think I should hit it again like I did with Downunder?" Because he knew the years that I worked in Downunder. We grew up together. He knew the hours I put in. I said, "Do you think I should hit this again?" He said, "Fuck no." He said, "If I've got your money, you think I'm going to be hit this hard if I got your money?" He said, "I'd love to go to Europe with my kid on the motocross for a whole year and fuck off a whole year and support him and go watch him motocross." Mm-hmm. He said, "I put money away, but I didn't put your fucking money away. I got to keep doing this. I'm on the grind." Mm-hmm. And he's doing really well, don't get me wrong, right. but he kind of said, "Yeah, it's okay. Have some moderation." He said, "I'd like to have moderation too, but I'm not at that point." Do you get what I'm saying there?
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of needed to let that go a little bit. Like, okay, I do not mind walking, but I'm just not going to be extreme.
Yeah.
So there is a price to be paid for success, and just be careful what you ask for, because you'll get it. I don't know if that
Very
makes
true,
sense.
man. And no, it's very true. And I'm just thinking about my own deal in the cutting horse world as an amateur, non-pro. Just one horse, that takes a lot of time and effort and mental energy, much less competing at an open level with however many horses you're showing up with, and seeing the level of success that you've had. It's like this curse of ambition.
Yes,
you
it
can't
is.
lower your expectations. You're still going to have that expectation to be the best, which is cool. To like outside looking in, you're able to recognize it, be aware of it, and say, "I'm okay if I don't get this buckle or championship or whatever." And this applies to anything, not just horses.
I want
but
to enjoy
anybody
the process more now.
Anybody listening to this that can relate. Yes, the process.
But again, I'm almost 49, and I'm at a different age now. When you're in your 20s, I said to my buddy David McGee, I said, when we're young, David, why do we think big is better? Why do we keep growing? Why do we bigger, better? More horses, more barn, bigger bigger this, more employees. I said, why do we, as young men, why do we have to get bigger? And he just looked at me and said, "Clinton," he said, "we all have bigger dick syndrome. We all got a 6-inch dick. We all want a 9-inch dick. He said, testosterone is running through our veins. We're driven. We want to rule the world."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He said, "Clinton, I netted more when I was at $26 million a year. I took home more money at 26 million a year than what I did at 52. What does that tell you? He said, I netted more money when I did half the gross. And I had half the bullshit, half the complaints, half the employees. There becomes a point in business where all you're doing is keeping people employed. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
You're just keeping people in a job. You're not making more money.
And you have to keep doing that thing just to keep it going.
When I recognized I was on that treadmill and I was fucked and I was in debt that much, I made a conscious effort to get off the treadmill. It doesn't happen overnight. You got to scale it back. Does that make sense?
Unfortunately, it does.
But
Unfortunately, I know
I'm
exactly
glad
what
I
you're
did
saying.
it. I'm glad I did it in my 20s and 30s because you're the Energizer Bunny there. I tell every young person between 20 and 30, you will never have a decade where you're the Energizer Bunny. You'll never have a decade where you can sleep the least, work the hardest, drink the most, and show up the next day and never fucking falter. Don't fuck up that decade. That decade is not for partying. That decade is for working your ass off, building your skill set, building your career. And 30 is another big decade from 30 to 40. Because when I hit 40, my energy level went down a lot. And I bet when I hit 50, it'll go down more. Every decade's going to get tougher. So don't fuck off those first 20 years.
That being said, though, at dinner that night, I know you referenced wishing you had been a trainer during those 20 years and instead you were a clinician, and the realization that you had. Can you speak to that just for a second?
So I'll admit this publicly. For many years, I resented Downunder Horsemanship. I was bitter. Because you got to remember, when Andrea Fapani started his career, it would have been 1997, he got a job with John Slack and Todd Bergen. That was the job I wanted. He beat me to it by like 2 weeks, okay? So we and him kind of got started in our careers at the same time. We went different paths in life, but we got started in America in 1997, okay? And for many years, I was bitter that I'd pissed away the best 20 years of my work ethic and the best 20 years of my body and work on teaching old ladies how to pick up their left fucking lead. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, how much does that do for a man's ego to teach a fucking woman to pick up a left lead? I'm not being a piece of shit. I'm just saying what it is, okay? There ain't no fucking skill in that, okay? But that's what I did. I made millions of dollars teaching a left fucking lead and a right fucking lead, but I did it, okay? And so for 20 years, I was bitter, and I was like, not 20 years, but towards the end of it, I was bitter, like, did I make the right decision? Did I fuck up? Like, did I waste 20 years of my life when I should have been Andrea? I wanted to be him. I would have been him if I would have gone that direction, but I was driven like him. It's the same animal, okay? And my friend Doug Carpenter, he passed away almost 4 years ago now with COVID. I was very close to him, and I told him on the phone, I talked to him every morning. He was a friend and a mentor to me, and I said, Doug, I'm feeling a lot of bitterness towards Downunder Horsemanship and feeling like I fucked up in life, that I spent 20 years fucking around with teaching people when I should have been a horse trainer and winning. And I kind of vented what I felt, and he was real calm. Doug was a white, and he was real calm, and he had this real calming voice, and he said, Clinton, let me tell you a little story. He said, do you know how many AQHA World Championship buckles I have? And I said, no. And he said, like 13. And he said, 13 World Championship trophies and buckles. And he said, do you know where all those trophies and buckles are now? And I said, no, Doug, I don't. He said, they're in the spare room of my house in a cardboard box covered in tarnish. And I never look at them. And he said, I'm 63 and I'm out there hustling horse deals every day, commissions, selling horses, because I don't have enough money to retire. You retired at 43. You didn't fuck up. So let's get this straight. If I could trade places with you tomorrow, I would be you in a heartbeat. That let all that bitterness go. And then my buddy Andrea helped me when I said, should I be you again? And he said, if you got the money, fuck no. That let the rest of it go. I had 90% of the bitterness go with Doug's conversation. And when I asked Andrea, I said, if you had a choice to be out here doing what you're doing, and he said, no, I wouldn't. That let the rest of it go. Yeah. Does that make sense? So I made peace with that now. So that's what I'm saying. I'll probably never win what I wanted to win because I've left it too late. I'm competing against guys half my age that have been doing it a lot longer, but I'm enjoying the process. I have fun with my horses, and I'm enjoying my life. So I'm going to live with that peace. but I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do. And I only invite people into my life now that enhance it. Where when you're broke and you're building a business, you have to have people in your life. There's a lot of wealthy customers that own horses that are not very good people. They're not nice people. They're not good people. They're pieces of shit. Let's just be honest. But you got to smile and you got to hug them and you got to act like you like them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because, like, I'm not going to mention this trainer's name, and it could be in the reining industry, could be in the cutting industry, could be in the cow horse. So I'll just leave it open, okay? But this guy's big. And I said to him one day, I said, how much bullshit do your customers give you? This guy's won millions. And he said, Clinton, you have no fucking idea. They bust my balls every fucking day. When this arsehole's got 13 horses in training and he calls me, I have to pick up the phone. If it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I pick up the fucking phone. Because 13 of those horses he paid over $300,000 for. You get my drift? So this is a guy that's really, really fucking successful and he's still sucking dick. Do you understand what I'm saying here? You know what I'm, everybody sees these open trainers that are really winning. Don't think for 1 second they don't have some piece of shit customers that are constantly busting their balls. Yeah. Because you think a guy that is at the top of his career, and it could be cutting, could be reining, could be cow horse, the customers say, whatever you want to do, I'll do. You're clearly successful at your job. You know how to be a winner. I'll write the check, let's go win. Oh no, Clinton. He said they second guess me all the fucking time. Doesn't that shock you just a little bit? That you're the best at what you do, and there's still customers, most of them, that are second guessing you. Should we really do this? Is that really the right decision? Motherfucker, how much have you won? The answer is 0, so shut your fucking mouth. But you know what? The trainer can't say that. He's got to humor that person. Well, you know, this is why I think we should do it, and this is why I think... You get what I'm trying to say?
I do get it because I see it. I'm around it, and yeah, I know exactly what
Don't think that the top guys don't have to suck dick too. We all did. I sucked a lot of old lady dick to get my money, and I admit it. I'm not ashamed of it. I got calluses on my knees that'll never fucking heal up, and I fucking did it. You all got to put up with bullshit.
Well, yeah, that's what
everybody. I don't give a fuck if you've won millions. It's not what it looks like from the outside. Young trainers look, oh my God, this trainer's got all these great horses. The people that write the checks for these horses are high-powered people. They're business owners. They're reds. They want to be in control. Most of them are not just writing an open checkbook and saying, hey, whatever you want to do is fine with me. They're controlling you, or they're at least trying to. Right. It's not as rosy as every young trainer thinks it is.
Yes, very much.
Will you agree, or do you think I'm full of shit?
No, I unfortunately I see that, and I agree 100%. And yes, they're very much in the hospitality business.
Yes, you're in the people pleasing.
Yes,
you're in the people pleasing business.
And I see these wealthy people, and they are able to buy these phenomenal horses, and it just makes me question how the fuck did they get this much money? Because the decisions they're making don't make any sense.
Because most wealthy people that made their millions, they were an expert in that field. And because they were an expert in that field, they think within 3 years they're an expert in the horse industry.
Yes.
You're not.
Yeah.
It took 28 years to get really good in the horse industry. You've been in it 3 years.
Right.
So they're naive enough to think because they were number one in the electrician business means they're going to be number one in the horse business.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. You have to pay your dues. You have to learn your lessons.
Yeah.
So they're arrogant enough to believe I made millions over here. These are just a bunch of dumb fucking redneck horse trainers. I can outsmart these motherfuckers. And they never will. They never will.
Yeah.
You know, the Sheikh of Arabia, he has not won the Kentucky Derby. You know that. He spends $1 million a day on his racehorses all over the world, between Australia, Ireland, England, America. He spends over $1 million a day on his racehorse addiction. He has still not won the Kentucky Derby.
Really?
You can't buy a win.
100%, especially anything relating to a cow. So many variables that are just outside of your control.
There's a thing called luck. And there's a thing, you can set yourself up for success. Yeah. You can try your best, but you can't guarantee it. You can't make it win. This guy's got more money than the world, and he still can't win the Kentucky Derby. And then next year, there'll probably be a couple of broke-ass teachers that bought some piece of shit fucking horse for $10,000, and it fucking wins the Kentucky Derby and America celebrates. You know what I mean? Like, that shit happens all the time. It doesn't happen to me and you, but it does happen. What I'm saying is they are naive enough to think because they were number one in one business, they're going to be number one in this business.
Yeah.
And it doesn't quite work like that. They've got to, most of the time, they're going to lose their ass.
It's interesting to watch, honestly, to go to a futurity or one of these big Fort Worth events, and you see these folks that have done very well with their business, and they have these badass horses. Some do well. I'm not saying they don't. It's just interesting to observe the whole dynamic of the performance horse world, owner, trainer, and that relationship.
We're in the people business. I always said to people, I was never into training horses. I was in the people-pleasing business. That's what I was in. So that's when always.
When did that click though? Like when did you realize?
Oh,
like,
early, because horses don't write checks. People do write checks. So early on, I was very much these ladies' pool boys. So when it's a little crass, I get it. I sucked a lot of old lady dick to get my money. What that really means is when a little old lady's screeching at me, Clinton, I can't get my horse on the trailer, I'd run over there like a pool boy. Dorothy, you did a wonderful job, lady. You did an awesome job. I'm so proud of you. You know what I wanted to say? You're fucking useless. Get the fuck out of the road. Give me the goddamn halter and stick and let me get this son of a bitch, fat fucking Appaloosa, Frisian, fucking busted ass cross in the fucking trailer. But you know what I said? Dorothy, you did a wonderful job. I'm so proud of you. You put in 100% effort. Stand back. I'm going to walk with him a little bit and apply a little pressure and release, and I'm going to reward the slightest try. I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then I'm going to get him on it. And when I get him off, I'm going to let you do it. That's what I'd say. And what I really am thinking is, bitch, when I get this horse on the fucking trailer, I'm going to let you do it because you're going to think you're a fucking hero and you fucking did it. When you get home, you're going to tell all your girlfriends you got the fucking horse on the trailer, and you're going to ignore the part that I got drug over the fucking arena for an hour and a half by this big fucking turd, and I got him on. Do you see how there's two sides to my brain? That's the truth of it. But for 20 years, this is why I've been in therapy. This is why I've been in therapy for 9 years. For 20 goddamn years, Mike, I gave that speech. Okay, here's a perfect question. I answered a question on camera the other day of a lady that they send in questions. And a lady sent in a question that she bought 2 off-the-track thoroughbreds. You got to remember, my customer is so green and so new to the horse industry, your worst non-pro, as a trainer's a performance horse customer, as their worst non-pro would be much better than most of my customers that enter my business when they get into it. Okay, so I need to set the tone there, okay?
Well,
I'm dealing with the beginner of the
for
beginner.
folks listening, yes, at least the amateur non-pro have been around horses. These
Oh,
folks
fuck,
have
these
never.
people are green.
Yeah,
These
okay.
people don't know how to put a halter on. Right. So a lady sent me a question the other day, and she said, I got 2 off-the-track thoroughbreds, and I'm trying to train them for Western pleasure. And I'm noticing that they want to run off, and they want to get really fast, and I'm having trouble collecting them. I'm getting them to go slow. What should I do? The old Clinton Anderson, before I retired, answered it like this. Jennifer, what a wonderful question. I'm really so glad you sent me that question. I admire your ambition buying 2 thoroughbreds off the track and trying to train them for Western pleasure. You go, girl. I love it. So here's what I do. I'd pick up the left lead. I try to collect them, and when they speed up, you just slow them down a little bit, and you do this and this and this, and you keep up the great effort, lady, and you keep putting in the best effort, and I'm proud of you, and you're going to get these thoroughbreds to lope like a pleasure horse in no time. Now how I answer that question is, Jennifer, what the fuck are you doing, you crazy bitch? You just bought 2 goddamn fucking thoroughbreds off the track, and you think these son of a bitches are going to run around the arena like a fucking quarter horse in a Western pleasure ring? Do you hate yourself? Do you hate life, bitch? What is the deal here? Sell these 2 motherfuckers, turn them loose on the road. I don't give a fuck what you do to them. Get rid of them. Go buy a couple of Western pleasure bred horses, find a Western pleasure trainer in your fucking area, and get your shit together. That's what the answer is now. Do you get what I'm saying? It's always been the answer, Mike. But 20 years ago when I was broke, it was, Jennifer, you did a wonderful job. I'm so proud of your ambition. It takes a lot of courage to buy a thoroughbred and try and turn it into a Western pleasure horse. You go, girl. Girl power, motherfucker. Do you know why I've been in therapy now for 9 fucking years? That's the shit I'm dealing with. That is the shit that I've dealt with for 25 fucking years. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's why I turned into...
Holy
I'm not an
shit,
alcoholic now, but I was an alcoholic at one
Oh
point.
my God, man. How bad did you want to say that back then in the heyday?
Oh, real bad, but I was so broke I couldn't. You got to remember, 80% of my business, even today, is women.
Why do you think that is?
Women are open to learning. Women are open to looking for new ideas. Most men are more closed-minded. They don't want to learn. They think they can do it themselves, that kind of shit.
Tell me this. In the height of Downunder Horsemanship, what was the best seller? Like, what was it that people were thirsty for? Like, what did you sell the most?
Halter and lead ropes, sticks and strings, halter and lead rope.
But when it comes to, like, the training of the horse, like, what was it that those ladies were seeking from you?
Respect. Just get the animals to stop running over them. Get them to stop biting them, kicking them, running over them. You know, they do up the girth, the fucking thing turns its head and rips their arm off. Shit like that. Like, I don't think these horse trainers even remotely gather the greenness of how most people enter my business model. Yeah. And I was that green too. It might seem like I'm making fun of them. I'm not. I was that green at one point too. Yeah. We all got to start somewhere.
Yeah. No.
Does that make sense?
No,
we all
it does.
got to start somewhere.
I told you it wasn't that long ago I was YouTubing how to saddle a horse.
So these people just want to survive. They're about an inch away from getting killed.
Yeah.
So I figured out real quick, horses don't write checks, people do.
Yeah.
So your job's to keep people safe. The real reason I was very successful at my job is because you can hate on me all you want, but my way of training horses for the general public works. I figured out a system to train hundreds of thousands of people all over the world to stay alive with their horses, get respect from their horses, and be safe. Sure, I didn't train them how to win the futurity. I didn't train them how to win a world championship, but I sure kept them fucking alive. Does that make sense? That's why it worked. You can call me a piece of shit all you want, but I wasn't this successful for this many years by having a bad product.
Right.
Remember, marketing, one of the greatest lessons I ever learned in marketing for Dan Stewart, he's passed away last year. He said, Clinton, great marketing only prolongs the demise of a bad product. I did have a good product. Mm-hmm. You can like me or hate my guts, but I had a good product, and I'm proud of that. And it kept thousands of people alive. It kept thousands of people from getting killed. It kept thousands of people that are an inch away from dangling off the cliff from getting killed by their horse.
Right.
Sure, I didn't teach them how to win the futurity. They're not going to win a IQHO World Championship. But in their mind, staying alive and being safe was a world championship to them.
Everybody's in the horse game for a different reason.
And I was dealing with the entry level. I was dealing with the very, very entry level. And after 3 years, they moved on from me, and I'm not butthurt by that. They moved on to a professional trainer, or they moved on to this guy, or they just, they got their knowledge of information.
Sitting here thinking about it now, that market is
fucking way bigger.
Is far wider than a cutting or
a horse trainer's trying to get $200,000 out of somebody to buy them a futurity prospect. I'm getting $40 off 10,000 people a month. So who fucking wins? Think this through just a little bit now.
I'm from Louisiana, so my math is slow.
I'm not trying to get $400,000 out of somebody. Yeah. I'm trying to get $40 off 10,000 people.
Right.
I'm getting a little bit of money. You know how Walmart gets rich? A little bit of money off fucking thousands of people. Mercedes gets rich off a lot of money off a lot less people. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to get $200,000 for a futurity prospect. I'm trying to get a little bit of money off thousands of people all over the world.
Right.
And in return, I give them knowledge. I give them experience. I give them a system to train their horses. These people are new to the horse industry. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to put a halter on. They don't know how to catch their horse. I teach them those skills.
What took you 15, 20 years, you're able to package. Mm-hmm. This is something I took from you. Again, going back to Jesse Lennox. Him and I talk about this a lot. That was one of the main things we took from that dinner was marketing and packaging.
Yes.
And so you took 10 to 15 years of what you learned, package it up, and you're able to sell that knowledge so people don't have to spend 10 to 15 years of riding 20 to 40 horses a day. You're able to sell that information.
Very much so.
Here you go.
I gave him a shortcut.
Yes.
Everything's numbered. I've got
And that's the
60.
way-
I've got 60 exercises. They're all numbered and named. Start at 1, move through to 60. How hard is that?
Right.
You know, when I was a kid, if I would have had the system that I have now in place, the method, when I was 13 years old, I can't explain to you, Mike, how much less frustration and trouble I would have had. Because
Right.
I would have had a roadmap to follow.
Yeah.
There was no roadmap. So I was just wandering around, bumping into walls and shit. You know what I mean? Now there's a roadmap. I tell the audience right now when I do a tour, I look at them, and this is actually sincere. I actually enjoy doing the 3 tours now. I do 3 tours a year now. And I actually love them because I'm just me. I'm as blunt as I am in this podcast. I say what I want to say, joke about what I want to joke, etc. And most people know me now that if they show up to one of my public events, I am going to be me. So don't get butthurt if I say a swear or I say a joke or whatever it is, okay? Yeah. But I look at the audience now and I say to them, I'm actually jealous of you guys. You guys have this so easy now. You have a roadmap to having a pretty broke horse. There's a blueprint. Start at exercise 1, finish at 60. I had to figure all this shit out. My method now is the 4th generation. I've stripped down my method now 4 separate times over 20 years. I filmed it, scrapped it, filmed it, scrapped it. I've done it 4 times. Now I've got it right. Because every time I filmed it and thought I had it right, I'm like, I remember the first three videotapes I ever made. I got this perfect. Everybody's going to understand it. Some lady walks up to me and says, I don't get it. Fuck, I'd scratch it and start again. I've done that 4 separate times. Now I've got it right. Now I've got it absolutely foolproof. Does that make sense?
To be devil's advocate, what about the person out there is going to say, well, what about this horse with this bloodline? What about this horse, this bloodline? Does it differ depending on the horse, bloodline,
Everything's always going
discipline?
to... The problem with teaching horsemanship is it's a living, breathing thing. It's like, okay, real estate. If I want to be a realtor, okay, and you're a realtor expert, you can teach me how to sell a house, how to write up a contract, how to negotiate commissions, and how to deal with a seller and a buyer. You can teach me that skill set. But there's not much difference between selling a $300,000 spec home and a $3 million home to somebody with more money. It's still a sale. It's still the same contract. It's a buyer and a seller. We're just talking about different zeros on the end of the number. So there's not a house. The house doesn't change personalities. A horse does. Mm-hmm. So yes, I have a general blanket of information on how to train all horses. Does every horse need tweaked a little bit? Yes, it does. That's why it's so hard to pass this information on to somebody, because it can't be just a blanket for everything. Yes, do I have a method? Does that method work on 99% of the horses? The answer is yes. But everything requires some tweaking.
Yeah.
Everything requires some, a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, a little bit less of this. You've got to tweak everything. There's no fix to everything.
Right.
But that's why horsemanship is such a time-consuming thing to teach somebody, because it takes years to teach it, doesn't it? It takes years to teach this stuff to somebody. It takes a lifetime. So you're really a student for life. Right. Once you get handy enough, like most of my students, I can teach it to them in 2 years. You know what the next 2 years are? Them just learning from the horse. Horses.
And fine-tuning that feel
just
and
more
timing.
training of more horses.
Right.
That's what gets them to the next level, not me. Mm-hmm. You know, when I learned everything from Gordon McKinley, I learned all of it in 2 years. I wasn't as good as him. He could get a wild Mustang, we call them Brumbies in Australia. He could get a wild horse, and within an hour and a half, he could have it caught, saddled, and ready to ride. That's difficult. That is not easy. I'm not talking about choking it down and jerking it around and dallying up to a horn. I mean, on the ground with a lariat, he can get it caught and saddled, and within an hour and a half, I'd for sure step on it and not feel like I'm going to get killed, okay? That's an art. He was a gifted man at that. Oh, yeah, 4, 5, 6-year-old horse, never seen man before, okay? That was his gift, okay? So he could do it in an hour and a half. After 2 years of studying him, I could do it, but it would take me 3.5. I can still get it done. It'd take me 3.5 hours to get it done. Now, 30 years later, I could now get it done in an hour and a half. But it took me 30 years of practice to get my feel, timing, and experience to be as good as Gordon's was.
And that's so crazy.
He beat me by 30 years of experience. You get what I'm saying? So,
yes.
But see now, you know, people like, you know, Diego and Jeff and Shayla, my professional clinicians, I take pride that they're as good as me or even better than me at half the time.
Right.
I'm not offended by that. I'm not butthurt by that. I'm proud that I could produce better horsemen than me in half the time. Why did they get so good so quick? Because they had a roadmap to follow.
Yeah, and you were able to shorten the learning curve.
They didn't have to get a bloody nose. Like I remember Ken Bray, I had some problems with some employees and I'm ready to blow my fucking brains out one time. And I go to lunch with Ken Bray and I'm bitching to him and telling him everything that's I'm troubled with my business and employees and manage them and all this shit. And Ken was always calm. He just looked at me and says, sometimes, Clinton, you got to get a few bloody noses to figure out how the playground works. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to get a few bloody noses to figure out how the playground works. The kids that I teach now, they don't have to get bloody noses. It's laid out for them.
Right.
Does that make sense? Now, once they get to a point where they want to specialize in reining, go follow Andrea. They want to do cutting, follow Adon, follow Jesse. You know, they want to do cow horse, follow, Kelby Phillip. Follow the guy that's winning, Justin Wright. When you get to that, when you get to a good level of horsemanship, go specialize then.
Right.
I'm not the specialized guy. I never said I was a specialized guy. I don't like not winning. When I compete, I'm average. Sometimes I do better, but as a general rule, I'm not winning by any means. I don't like that, but I enjoy the process.
Tell me this. So what do you like now? You mentioned cutting. Reining was the foundation. You've been cutting, doing some cow
I really
horse.
enjoy the cow horses, so I'm mainly just cow horsing, but I'm starting to get into the cutting. And I'm really enjoying the cutting, and I'm learning it, and I'm really enjoying it.
So that's interesting to me. So you've been a teacher for a very long time.
Now I'm a competitor.
Who are you learning from now to specialize, because it is such a specialized thing, cow horse, reining, cutting. Who are you learning from each
reining,
one?
I adopted a lot of Andrea's training program.
Not a bad one to follow.
Okay, so I adopted a lot of his for the reining, and I feel, not to be, sound arrogant, but I've got the reining for the cow horse pretty good. Even the cow, even though I'm not winning in the cow horse. No, there's not a cow horse trainer that says if Clinton's got a nice horse, he's going to whip your ass in the reining.
Yeah.
Okay, if I've got my shit together and I got the right horse, I'm very much competitive in the reining portion. Where I get my ass kicked is in the going down the fence and the cutting portion. So that's where I've really had to learn how to work cows, etc. So in that world, I learn from everybody. What's so wonderful about the Cow Horse Association is these trainers have been very welcoming to me. They answer my questions. I'll have them ride my horses. I'll have them watch a video and say, okay, I suck. Tell me what you think I need to improve on. And they're very encouraging. There's a great culture in the Cow Horse Association for welcoming new people.
That's awesome.
They want you to be successful.
Are you training your own?
Yes, I'm training my own. I got my own futurity horses, etc., and I love the process of it. I don't like not being competitive, but I like the process. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does, 100%.
And I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And in the cutting, he may not want me to say this, but Matt Gaines is helping me. He's a phenomenal teacher. He might get embarrassed sometimes of some of the scores I get, but he's helping me with the cutting. And
it's hard to argue with $9 million lifetime
He's an
earnings.
extremely good teacher. He's an extremely good teacher. He understands the theory, and I really enjoy learning from him. And his wife's been helping me a bunch too. And he's just he's a great teacher. He understands the theory of it. And the other thing one thing cutters have got to understand, I don't think understand, especially when you do cow horse. When you got to go change leads on a horse, flying lead changes, you got to go run, stop, speed control. You got to have them really broke. You got to have a handle on them. You can get away with a stiff cutter. You can get away with a cutter that ain't real broke in the face, ain't real broke in the body. And as long as it cows and does its shit, it can still win. I promise you. You take that horse to the cow horse arena and you gallop it down the arena and ask it to stop, it'll spit the fucking bridle out. You go down there to do a flying lead change. So I really respect people like Boyd Rice that went from the cutting to the cow horse and dominated. Even Adon doing the world's greatest horse and Jesse doing the world's greatest. I love guys because how much money are those two guys, Jesse and Adon, won? And they'll show up at the world's greatest horseman and they'll mark a 226, 227 in the cutting and smoke everybody, okay? And then they'll get a 208 or a 210 in the reining and a 204 down the fence. And they got a smile on their face. I don't look down on them. I respect them. Yeah. They've stepped out of their industry to go learn a new skill set.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck how many millions of dollars you won. When you change industries, you're a rookie again.
Yeah.
You better be prepared to eat some humble pie. You better be prepared to go back to being an amateur. because you're learning a whole new skill set.
Yeah.
You might be king in your world, but open up your mind and step over here. So I love great horsemen that have got the balls to eat enough humility. And what's so fun about the cow horse people cheer for fucking Jesse and a Don when they mark a 210. They act like it was a 225. They just want to support them. That's a cool thing. The cow horse, the reiners don't have that. Like a lot of people ask me why I got out of the reining. I actually enjoy training a reiner horse. This will piss the reiners off, but fuck it. I don't enjoy the horse shows anymore. It's like who just fucking died. It's like a funeral just went off. Nobody's having any fun. The horses look depressed. The trainers look depressed. Nobody talks to anybody. Nobody welcomes you. When I stepped into the cow horse world, hey, Clinton, great to have you here. What can we do to help you? You know, they genuinely want people to do well. It's not a game. It's not like an act. I don't know what the culture is in the cutting because I haven't been doing it long enough. But this Cow Horse Association, these motherfuckers have got a culture that is very, very unique. They don't give a shit if you drive in with a fucking busted ass single wide trailer full of rust and it's steel, or a $3 million bus and a trailer. They all treat you the same.
Right.
They don't care how much money's in your pocket. They welcome you. You could show up with a fucking spotted Appaloosa and show up in the greenest glass class, and more than likely, Chris Dawson's at the back gate giving this lady a few tips, and he's not even her trainer. Hey, you're doing great, hon. Keep up the good work. Yeah. It's just a culture like that. It's very unique. And that's why I do the cow horse, because I love the people in the industry it's the cowboys versus the cows. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where the reiners, it's the reiner versus the reiner. It's an individual sport.
Right.
So these people cheer for that trainer because they're his customers, and these people cheer for that. Nobody cheers for each other. In the cow horse, every trainer wants to make the finals, but reality is whatever trainer doesn't make the finals, he's rooting for every trainer that walks in that door to beat that cow's ass.
Yeah.
It's kind of unique.
You can feel that. That is the consensus, right? I've been around the cutting quite a bit. I've never been around the reining, but the consensus is around the cow horse. That is the
It
vibe.
is true.
That is the vibe. And from what little I've been around it, went to the Run for a Million. Always go to the snaffle bit. The world's greatest horseman. Yeah, I would agree with that. That
It's
seems
pretty
to be
cool.
it.
It's a great association. And everybody helps each other. So to answer your question, everybody helps me, and I ask questions for everybody. Like tomorrow, I'm going to go ride with Aaron Terramura. I'm going to have a ride my mare and say, okay, I've never put a horse in the bridle before. Ride my mare. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. You know what I mean? I'll pay you for your time. And she said, Clinton, I'd love to have you here. You know what I mean? And they're welcoming. They want people to do well in the sport.
So Erin Tormino, so she's from Canada, right? And I don't know. I guess I get it, maybe, but Australians help Australians. Canadians help Canadians.
Yeah.
I ride with Jesse Lennox. Erin Tormino comes over for the to help Jesse with the world's greatest, right? And then I think she wrote something for Jesse this past year at the Futurity. And it's so cool for me to just be able to observe. He helps her with the cutting. Do this, do this, do this. The world's greatest comes around, roles reverse. He's now the student, she's the coach. What works in the cutting doesn't work in the cow horse. And so it's so cool. They don't even realize that I'm observing and just seeing, like you were at Gordon's place, right? Like, I get to do this for free.
Yeah.
I just get to observe and witness and learn all of this for free.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so, yeah, you're going to, I'm sure you've spent some time with Erin before, but she's a badass.
Not one-on-one with her, but I have a lot of respect for her. I love the way her horses look. They're so broke.
Yeah.
And, she comes from Todd Bergen's program. So his horses are, the ultimate broke horses and so forth. What I love about the cow horse is you've got to be a great horseman to do that event.
It blows my mind.
You are a real horseman.
100%.
Because what makes you a great cutter bites you in the ass as a reiner. And what makes you as a good reiner fucking fucks you up in the cutting. And you got to be a horseman.
And then the whole down the fence thing.
You got to be a horseman.
Yeah.
It's a true horsemanship deal to do that event well. It's a true horseman. You're taking one horse, training them for 3 events, and the second you dominate one event, you're going to suck at the other 2. That's just the way you almost can't dominate one event, because if you are dominating one event, like in the past, I've dominated the reining. And sure as shit, I'm a 201 in the cutting and then going down the fence, because I've spent so much time working on the reining. Here's a good way if you want to know what it's like to train a cow horse, okay? You got 3 events. So you might cut for 3 days, you might rein for 3 days, and you might go down the fence for 3 days. If I told Jesse, hey, Jesse, you got to train a cutting horse now, but here's the deal. You don't get to train it 6 days a week. You only got 3 days a week. That's it. For 2 years, you personally will ride this horse only 3 days a week. Jesse would say, oh, that's kind of fucked up. That's half the amount of time I need. I need more than that. No, that's all you get.
Yeah.
That's all you get. You get 3 days a week. Because remember, you got to work on your reining now, and you got to work on going down the fence. You can't just work on cutting. You know, I was guilty of that when I was a reiner. I was a little bit snobbish, and I'll admit it. When I'd look at the cow horse guys, and their reining was kind of shitty. It is shitty compared to NRHA reining, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm sure cutters look at the cutting and say, man, this is fucking shitty compared to
Well, that's
real
why
cutting.
they mark a 29
Yeah.
in the
So,
World
but what I
greatest.
didn't realize is how hard it is. So basically, you've only got 3 days a week to train for that event. So if I said to Andrea, you got a futurity horse, you got 2 years to train it, but you can only ride it 3 days a week. He could get it to the futurity, but it ain't going to look like his horses normally look.
Right.
Let's just be honest. It'll look good, but it ain't going to look like that.
Right.
So I have a lot more respect now, and I'm ashamed that I didn't respect the cow horse guys in previous years as much as I should have. So I've had to eat some humble pie and have a lot of respect for these guys and women that they're doing a very, very difficult event. Because I always used to look at the rein and say, why can't you motherfuckers get your shit together and make it look good? I'll tell you why. Because if you're working on it that much to where it looks like a reining horse, you're clearly not cutting.
You're slipping on
and you're
something
clearly
else,
not
right.
going down the fence.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's just cool. Jesse and Don and Spud's done it before. And Boyd's obviously mastered it. He's come
Yep.
from the cutting and really kicked ass. I just respect people that have enough humility and balls to go from a hero, willing to look like a rookie for a little bit of time, a certain amount of time, and grow and become great at that.
Yeah.
A true horseman.
Well, to wrap that real quick, it is cool because I do get to see the behind the scenes with Jesse Lennox, and to see the time that guy spent with the roping and with the reining and with the cow horse, having these other people come in, and he's very humble about it, and he's willing to take the coaching.
Yeah.
It's very cool to see, and the cow horse folks, like you mentioned earlier, they welcome that.
They're just cool people. They're very good human beings.
Yes.
They do not care if you are poor and show up with a 4H busted ass Appaloosa. One of the top professionals will be encouraging you to do well.
Yes.
And they don't give a shit if you show up with a $2 million rig either. They just don't care. What they
Yep.
care about is you have fun, you're safe, and you enjoy the sport. I don't know how this culture got started, but they need to keep fostering it because they have something special.
Yep.
I can't talk for cutting, I'm not in it, but the reiners do not have it. They do not have that culture of welcoming new people. Oh, if you show up with a $2 million fucking truck and trailer, they'll welcome you. You show up in a 1960s steel trailer and unload a busted ass Appaloosa, they'll just won't even talk to you. They won't look at you, they won't talk to you. You couldn't get anybody to say hello to you if your life fucking depended on it, okay? Cow horse is not like that.
Why do you think that is, though? What are they missing?
They're just fucking snobs. Fuck it. I don't go to reining shows, they'll probably beat me up now. They're just snobs as a general rule. There's not all of them. There's some cool reiners out there. I know some really cool reiners that are good people. But
Yeah, it's hard to make a blanket statement, right? But
it
because
is-
there are some good ones.
there's
mixed in
some
there.
good ones in there. But as a general rule, they're very cliquey. They're very cliquey, and they're very, if you got money, we'll smile at you.
Right.
Like one of my girlfriends at the time, I went to a reining show a couple of years back, and I said, let's do a little experiment. You ready? I'm going to fuck with these people. You ready? I said, everybody you walk past, I want you to say hello to. You don't know them, but every single person you walk past, say hello, and I want you to make note of their reaction to you and what they do and what they say. And I said, let's talk at the end of the day. And we did it. And I come back at the end of the day, I said, what did you notice? She said, these people think you're weird. And I said, yes. I said, when you said hello to people, what did they do? And she said, they looked surprised. Like, why are you saying hello to me? I don't know you. Who are you? They almost look like, what the fuck are you talking to me for? It's a weird vibe. And maybe it's not like that at the lower NRHA shows, like the regional level. But at these big major fucking events, everybody puts their head down. Everybody walks like this. They look like the horses. Their heads are down. They walk straight. They just walk. And I'll fuck with them. I'll say, hey, how you doing? They'll look, yeah, I'm good. And then I put the fucking head down like that. It shocks them like when I do it to them, they almost look at me like, are you fucking with me? Like they're just in shock that it's just the opposite. And when I was in that world, I never noticed it. I was in the reining world for 20 years. I never noticed it. Yeah. But when I got in the cow horse world and then I went back and started, I always did reining, but when I'd go to a rein, I was like, there's something fucking weird here. Right. And then I go back again. I was like, yeah, there's definitely something fucking weird here, all right. These motherfuckers are different. And then the more I got around the cow horse world, it's like I'd show up in a reining show and I'm like, okay, who fucking died? Where was the funeral? Somebody died clearly because everybody looks depressed. The horses look depressed. People look fucking depressed. Somebody just clearly died here. Yeah, that's the truth of it. That's the truth of it. They'll fucking hate me for it. Fuck it, I don't care. Not everybody in it, but a lot of it is like, and maybe at the regional shows, the local level, it's a lot more friendly and shit like that. But you go to any major NRHA competition, it's very tribal. Tribal. This trainer has these clients. Don't fucking come near my customers. Don't look at my customers. Everybody is so cutthroat. They are so protective of their money people and their customers. They almost herd them like goats. Yeah. These are my people. Stay the fuck away from them. Don't talk to them. Don't go over there. Very, very tribal. That would be a good way of describing the reining industry. Tribal. That's a good word. Cow horse is like, fuck, everybody's here for a party, motherfucker. As long as we whip the cow's ass, we don't care. Everybody's a winner.
I love it. We'll roll into some rapid fires.
Righto, let's get it done.
Good with that.
Yes.
I'm going to ask them very rapidly, but you feel free to answer them as slowly as you want. Sure. And this will be a segment presented by Kerry Kelly Bits and Spurs.
Which I do have his Bits and Spurs.
You do?
Yes.
That's a good question.
I bought 2 pair of spurs from him. I love them. I haven't got any bits from him, but I got 2 spurs that I really like.
So what do you have, like a dull pair? And then
I have
like
a dull pair for the cutting that like Matt Gaines has got. He got me, my spurs were too sharp, coming from the cow horse and reining because you got to squeeze those cutters and that. So I lot duller than that. A lot duller than those ones.
Duller than these?
Oh, yeah. I ride with the same one Matt's got. He's got this big old fucking buckaroo-looking goddamn spur on it fucking thing that's about it.
As Matt Gaines should.
Yeah. So he's got a buckaroo fucking
Gaines.
Nevada spur rail, so I got the same one. Fuck it. If he's won $9 million, goddamn it, I'm getting the same spurs as him. But they have made a difference because I noticed on those cutters, you got to squeeze them. They can't be so sensitive that they squirt out from underneath you. Yeah. And I didn't realize that. You know what I mean? And I'm used to getting my horses so soft and feely and soft that they get off the fucking calf of your leg. You almost need these motherfuckers pushing on your leg a little bit, like dragging ass, like you're pushing them across the pen in the cutting. In the cutting, yeah. As soon as you take your legs off, it's bearing its ass. So I got it, and then I got another pair of spurs I got from Kelly that I really like for the cow horse, and they're a little sharper and got a little more feel to it. But no, I don't have any of his bits, but I need to go back to his shop and have a look. He does, you know what, I think he's done it from the outside looking in. He has mastered the art of production bit making. And I say that with respect. When you build handmade bits like clappers, clapper can only make so many bits in a day. You get what I'm saying? And there's only so many people can afford his bits. And then as soon as you mass produce, you go to China. Let's go to the opposite extent. You go to China, and they'll mass produce 5,000 bits a day, but the quality's shit.
But then you sacrifice.
You sacrifice quality. He looks like he's mastered an extremely high quality product, but made it production. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many bits and spurs he makes, but it's obviously quite a bit. It's a decent amount. I don't know if it's thousands, but he ain't fucking Clapper making one a day.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? He ain't that. But the quality of it is really good. Mm-hmm. So props to him. He made 2 pair of spurs, and I really like them.
Yeah. I'm not talented enough to know the difference, but any trainer that I've sat down with in any discipline respects what he does, and the product that he.
I've never met him personally. I'd like to go have a cocktail.
really?
No, I'd like to go have a
We'll
cocktail
meet him
with
after
him.
this.
Yeah, I'd like to
Yep,
go have a
we'll meet
cocktail,
him
but
after
I've got a
this.
lot of respect for anybody
He's a great guy.
that
man.
has mastered quality but kept production. That's not easy.
Quality production and marketing.
Yes.
The Kerry Kelly brand is. I give it to him. I put him right up in the ranks
Yeah.
with you
Yeah.
guys, you and Dale Brisby and the
Yeah.
Melanie Smiths of the world. Like, he is doing the thing and doing it very well.
Well, I have a lot of respect. I'd like to meet him.
What is your favorite Western movie?
The Hateful Eight.
What is the most embarrassing moment for you during a clinic?
Embarrassing moment. One time before a tour, this is going back 15 years, the crowd's supposed to show up at 8 o'clock, and I'm on my horse in the arena at like 7:45
AM?
a.m. So crowd's supposed to walk in. I got 3,000 people about to walk in the doors. I'm in the arena at 7:45. I'm riding my horse around, getting him ready for this tour, and I got to take a shit. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to finish training this horse. Well, I don't make it to the bathroom, and I'm running to the bathroom. I jump off the horse. I run to the bathroom. I shit myself. I run into the toilet. I got fucking shit. I had a bunch of coffee. I got shit coming down my legs. I got shit in my boots, and I have to turn my boots upside down to get the shit out of my boots. I'm panicking because I got about 3,000 people about to walk in the door, and I've shit my fucking pants. I had to call my girl, and I said, I need new fucking underpants. I need new goddamn boots. I certainly need new jeans, and I need some fucking Febreze right fucking now.
What did you eat the night before?
It was coffee that morning. So, and I've always been a risk taker. Like I could feel a turd. I could feel a turd coming on. Like fuck it. I got at least 15 minutes. Now, if I even remotely feel a turd, I don't care if I'm in the middle of showing a horse. If I feel a turd coming in, it scared me so bad. I'll jump off the horse in the middle of a pattern and fucking jump the fence and run to the bathroom. It scared me that bad. So now I never risk a turd at all. And everybody that's laughing at this, they've all fucking had it happen, including goddamn you, motherfucker.
100%.
And I'm the only one saying it.
I'm thinking about the last time I was on Highway 51 and had to fucking jet on the gravel road.
I
Yeah.
swear to God, it was a low point in my career when I had to turn my boot upside down and this fucking diarrhea runs out of this boot. I'm like, Clinton, this is a bad
The
moment.
difference is I didn't have 3,000 people coming to watch me.
I mean, in 15 minutes. I got to clean fucking shit up in 15 minutes. Like, I'm panicking. Like, I'm calling my girl like, bitch, pick up the phone. I don't know if you thought it was going to go there, but fuck it, it
that's
went.
funny, man. Okay, what is a book that you have either reread most or regifted most to other people?
Malcolm Gladwell is one of my favorite authors, and he wrote a book called Outliers.
Oh, I love it.
And talks about why people are successful, like, the Beatles, Bill Gates, why people are the best at what they do. And the general answer was they spent 10,000 hours honing their skills.
Yep.
Yes, Outliers.
I love it. What is the best investment you made in the last 6 months under $100?
Captain Morgan, under $100. I'm kind of fucked on that budget,
Right on. What's something that you wish you were better at?
Training cow horses. I wish I was better. I want to get better.
If you could live in any time period for 1 week, when and where do you go?
I think I would have lived in the 60s because back then you could drive around with a fucking rifle in your car. There wasn't all this bullshit politically correctness. You could fucking drink a beer and drive down the road. There wasn't social media. People weren't so offended and butthurt. You still had a fucking toilet to flush, so if you shit yourself, you can sit on that. You know what I mean? The 60s and 70s, you had all the amenities of the modern world. A washer and dryer, indoor plumbing. You get what I'm saying? Air conditioner. You had all the amenities we have now to be comfortable, but you didn't have all the bullshit, cultural, politically correctness, rules. You could drive a car on the fucking beach. You know what I mean? You could ride a horse on the beach. You could just do shit.
Yeah.
I envy the people. I spoke to a lot of people who grew up that were teenagers in their 20s and the 60s, and it was just a cool fucking period.
Yeah.
I would have lived in California in that time too. That would have been a cool fucking state to live in the 60s because you had all the freedom of being free without all the politically correct bullshit.
What scares you?
If I'm being totally truthful, and you're not my therapist, but fuck it, dying alone and broke. That's my fear. That's my biggest fear in life, being old and having Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. And my dad's got Parkinson's, but my mom takes good care of him, and my family take good care of him. But me being in America and not having family here, and you get what I'm trying to say, no kids, so I'm kind of on my own a little bit here. So probably the biggest fear for me is dying alone with some sort of mental illness and being broke where I can't pay for the treatment I need or pay for the hospital. And you get what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm being real. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah. Do you have any siblings?
I have a sister that's 5 years older than me, so I'm 48 and she's 5 years older than me.
What does she do?
She's like a secretary at a company. Yeah, she's a very, very good woman, opposite of me, not driven like me and not crazy like me, and a good woman, very, very good woman. She has one kid, but she wanted a simple life, and I wanted to fucking rule the world. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean she's wrong. Fuck, sometimes I look at her life and like, God damn, that was a smart decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But she's the opposite of me.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, too.
Right. I get it. What is the most recent thing that made you say, fuck yeah?
Probably when I at the last year's pre-futurity, I won the intermediate and I was third in the open.
Which futurity?
At the Cowhorse,
Cowhorse.
It was the Cowhorse pre-futurity, not the big open futurity, but the pre-futurity in August. I won the intermediate. I was third in the open, won about 38 grand. That was my big moment of, okay, motherfucker, if I've got the right horse, I can do this.
Yeah.
And what was cool about that is, sure, it was the intermediate level and I didn't win the open, but I can't tell you how many trainers text me and say, congratulations, Clinton, you've been working your ass off at this. Keep up the good work. I mean, what a good industry.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know what I'm trying to say? You know, if you did that in the rain and the only people would text you is your own customers, good job. You know what I mean? I must have had 50 texts from trainers are like, you've been working your ass off, you've been sucking, great to see you doing well. You know, just good people.
Right, that's awesome.
You know, so it gave me a good set of confidence that, okay, I can do this. Keep working at it. Keep learning. Keep getting your ass whipped. Come back. You know, like Rodney Carrington. Just don't focus on the 9.5 minutes that suck. Focus on the 30 minutes that's working. 30 seconds that's working.
What was your favorite cartoon growing up?
The Simpsons. Now it's South Park.
Simpsons.
The Simpsons. As a kid, now as an adult, I fucking love South Park. That's my go-to.
It's still going, that show.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Really?
Motherfucker, where have you been?
I don't watch TV, man. I don't have cable.
The South Park predict the future. Everything they say is going to happen. They predicted COVID 4 years ago. Everything they say is going to happen, it's not. It's reality. These motherfuckers have got a globe stuck up their ass. They've got a crystal ball. I love South Park so much because it's so politically incorrect that they literally make fun of every race, every religion, every human. They don't care if you're rich. They don't care if you're poor. It's fair game.
They're going to shine a light on it.
Everybody gets... America has got to learn to laugh at ourselves.
Yes.
Just learn to laugh at our goof. I told you on air, but I shit my pants. 15 minutes before 3,000 people walk in the door, I'm pouring out liquid turds out of my boots and panicking, calling my woman, get me some underwear, bitch. Like, laugh at yourself.
Right.
We got to learn to not take ourselves so fucking seriously that we can't just be humans.
Yes, I agree.
And laugh at ourselves. And that's what South Park does. It makes fun of celebrities. It makes fun of every fucking religion. It makes fun of politically correctness.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
I agree. I've been on this Elvis Presley, I've just been studying this guy, and because he was such a part of history, he's such a just a phenomenal musician and all of these things. And I watched an interview with him, and one of the interviewers asked, like, how far apart is the person Elvis from the image? And he says it's very hard to live up to an image. You know, and so I think a lot of that has to do with America in general. Like, we try to live up to this image. None of us are Elvis Presley, but we all have this mask on, and we go out into public, and we try to present ourselves in this certain way.
True, but I honestly think human beings are attracted to genuine and authentic people. I think that's why I've been very successful, because I'm rough around the edges, and yes, I'm not well liked to some people, but even my haters will not say I'm counterfeit. They might say, I hate Clinton Anderson, I hate how he trains a horse, he's this, and this. But you'll never say he's not real. Mm-hmm. You'll never say he lies. You'll never say he's counterfeit. I am what I am. And I think when you are not afraid to be who you are, you'll be amazed how many people you attract. It's not scary. You will attract a lot of good people into your life when you just be you.
Right.
You will repel a certain amount of people too, and that's good.
Yes.
It's kind of like when I was single, I always had a theory in dating. I try to get to a fuck yes or a fuck no real quick. You get what I'm saying? Like everybody wants to put on their best face when you go on a date with somebody. I do the opposite, meaning that I either want to offend a woman really quickly about who I am, what I like, what I don't like, who I am, what I want out of life, what I want out of a relationship. I try to get to offend them really quickly, or I try to get them to look at, after I talk to them, they're like, this guy's cool. Fuck yes, I'm into this. Whatever your jam is, somebody else thinks that's cool.
Right.
Somebody else doesn't too.
Yeah.
But get to a fuck yes or a fuck no quickly.
Yes.
Quit beating around. Don't put on your best foot. You know, put in who you are. This is what I'm into. You know, I go fucking right out there. Like I tell them what I'm into sexually. I tell them what I like, what I don't like. I try to run them off actually, because I run most of them off. But the ones that stick around, they're like a fuck yes. They're my women. Because I don't want to waste my time. My time's valuable.
Right.
I don't want to go on 7 dates and figure out this woman's not compatible. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So I ask them all kinds of questions. Hey, you get along with your father? What kind of your family? I ask them all kinds of questions because I want to know, are you crazy, bitch? What are you? You know what I mean? So get to a fuck yes quickly with people in your life or a fuck no.
Right.
And don't be frightened of the fuck no.
Yeah, it reminds me of a quote, and it's not necessarily just for women, but yeah, and I may butcher this, but it says, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And so often we try to portray the person we think you want us to be.
To be, yes. You don't want it, you know, you might have to do that in sales. Like one of the key things, if you go to any sales group and teach you how to sell shit, they tell you to emulate your customers.
Be a
like
chameleon.
if
Be
your
a chameleon.
Yes, be a chameleon. If your customer's real religious, you're like, can we pray before this meal, please, sir? You haven't prayed in your fucking life, but you'll pray with them. You know what I mean? I've never done this, but they teach you this in sales,
Right.
which is replicate your customer. If your customer swears, you swear too. If your customer says, God bless you, you replicate what they are.
If they lean this way, you lean that way. Yeah.
You figure out
I did
what
the
they...
thing. It'll fuck you up mentally.
That's
It
but that's
did
what
me
but that's
for a
what
long
you do
time.
to be in sales. If you're
Right.
selling shit to the public, I didn't do that. I wanted to just be me, and because there's enough people in America that are like you just the way you are, rough around the edges or not, they'll think you're pretty cool. You know what I mean?
I do, and it's awesome when you can buy into that, and when it happens, because you know it's real.
You
can be you,
Yes.
and those people are aligned.
When
with
you, I'll be honest about that. There was 6 months of my career, kind of within 2 years of me being a clinician. You got to remember, I'm competing against Monty Roberts and John Lyons and Pat Pirelli, and all these motherfuckers are in this big old. Remember, 80% of our customers are women. So it's this big competition. Who can be the most gentle? Who can be the most loving? Who can pat on the horse the most and get it to fart rainbows and do what you want? You know what I mean? And then you got Clinton out here with a fucking stick and a halter, jerking the sumbitch around, whacking it when it runs over you and making it mind. You know what I mean? So I was very much the outcast. I always said there's a time to love on a horse, which is really important to love them and take good care of a horse and praise them. And there's also a time to get in the middle of their shit too. Just like kids, you got to love your kids, take good care of them, but when they fuck up, straighten them up, straighten them out, okay? Well, I always had the theory of, if you explain to an audience when a horse needs disciplined, show them how to do it, what to do, when to do it, don't have it with emotion, don't have it with anger, have it with discipline and judgment, and then when he does what you want, praise him, reward him, tell him he's a good boy, they'll accept that. And I did that. But you got to remember, I was like the lone wolf doing that. You've got John and Pat and Monty over here that are all preaching. You just love on your horse and you just be kind to him and he'll do everything you want. Well, what do you think made more money? What do you think women wanted to hear? Do you wanted to hear, hey, when he steps out of line, kick his ass? Or do they want to hear the rainbow speech? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So after about 2 or 3 years, I said to myself, man, maybe I don't need to be me. Maybe I need to be more of this other fucking tell them you just feed them treats and you love on them all day. So I did that for about 6 months. I kind of changed my style for about 6 months. I got more hate mail and more unhappy customers when I changed from being me than what I ever did being me. Not only that, I hated myself.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't being true to me.
Yeah.
So
and
then
only you can know that.
Then I went right back to being Clinton, which is a time to love on a horse and praise him and pat him and reward him and give him a treat. And there's other times when you need to step in the middle of his shit.
Right.
And I went back to being me. And it turned out pretty good. You know what I mean? Because I'm the last man standing. All the other guys aren't there anymore. Right. I'm the last man standing. But I have a saying, when you sit in the middle of the fence, you get splinters in your ass. When you sit on the middle of the fence, you get splinters in the ass. You have to pick a team.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like when Obama was president, he's a smooth talking, slick motherfucker. You always say the right thing. I remember when he came on camera, I was like, this guy is a good public speaker. But I said, I want to see him talk without a teleprompter. I want to see how slick this motherfucker is without a teleprompter. Not even the same guy. You get a teleprompter away from him, he's umming and ahhing and he's all over the place. But Obama was smooth. I'll give him credit for that. Still, half the country hated his guts. He never said anything offensive like Trump. He was never rough like a Trump. Trump would just call a spade a spade.
Right.
If you're a dog, he calls you a dog. If you're great, he calls you great. So he's polarizing, isn't he? But Obama was he was what you'd call the ultimate politically correct bullshit, okay? But still half the country hated his guts. Mm-hmm. You can't fucking win. Doesn't matter what team you're on, half the country's going to hate your guts. So just be you.
Right.
Just whatever you are, be that.
Yep.
If you're gruff, be gruff. If you're mild and meek, be mild and meek. Because there's people that will be attracted to that. People that love religion and were quiet spoken and really soft, they flock to John Lyons like unbelievably good. And they were offended by me.
Right.
Other people that loved me could not stand John because he was too quiet, he was too boring. They needed action. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean John was wrong and I was right. Not at all. I told you, he was my competitor, but I have a lot of respect for the guy and don't think he got the respect he deserves. But just be you.
Yep.
You can't fucking please everybody, so quit goddamn trying.
And that reminds me of a quote, and then I'm going to roll into our last question. We'll wrap this thing out. But if you try to create something that everybody likes, you end up creating something nobody loves.
That's exactly right.
Right? And so...
Trump is the first politician that doesn't give a shit what people think. His policies and how he talks is who he is.
Yeah.
Every other politician is talking about what focus groups tell you need to say. Well, this focus group says you need to talk this way. And this focus group, they're puppets. That's why he's so hated by the political establishment. That's why Trump is so hated by even Republican politicians hate him. Because he's not owned. You can't own the son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You can't control him.
Yeah.
He doesn't need your money. So he's not looking for a kickback.
Right.
Trump's lost a lot of money being a politician. You know what I mean? It cost him a lot of money speaking his mind.
Yeah.
But that's why he's loved so much. Mm-hmm. Because he's not afraid to be hated. In fact, I think the motherfucker thrives on it. I think he gets off on being hated. I've never seen a man take that much abuse for 4 years in a row and every day just comes back confident.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready for round 2. It's like, yeah, maybe a year or two you can have people bashing you, but after a while, it's got to wear a man down. That motherfucker, I think he thrives on it.
Are you an American citizen now?
Fuck yeah, motherfucker. Hell yes. I pay my taxes. I'm an American citizen. I gave up my Australian citizenship 20 years ago. I was proud to be an American.
Okay.
Fuck yeah. If I'm gonna live in this country and I'm gonna benefit from it, I want to pay taxes. I want to contribute to it. And I want to make it a better fucking country.
I love it.
Don't let people come here and fucking mooch off it. Let people come here and add to it. You get what I'm saying? Bring value to this country. You don't let people into your house that rob you. Bring people that are going to add value to your house.
Yeah, I love it. If you could get a message out to millions of people, put it on a billboard, what does your message say?
Work your ass off in your 20s and 30s because you're the Energizer Bunny. Don't party those decades away. Save your money, invest your money, and anybody that is touching your money, question them, double check them. If you assume everybody's stealing from you, guess who will steal from you? Nobody. Don't be naive like I was, and I assumed nobody would steal from me. Assume everybody's robbing you, and nobody will rob you.
I love it. Clinton Anderson.
Righto, brother.
Thank you for your
Cheers.
time, my man.
Thank you.
Time is our most valuable asset, so I appreciate you.
Thank
sharing
you,
with me
mate.
and the listeners.
I hope this doesn't end your career.
Good thing. The podcast doesn't pay my bills.
That's
so,
good. I'm hoping I get canceled, but I'm God willing it'll work this time.
Yes. Thank you, man.
Cheers, brother.
Yes,
Look
sir.
after yourself.
Salud.
Cheers.